Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Wednesday episode of the the Greenhouse All-Stars recap series. As you can see, my fellow co-host, Miss Matthew Papa, is not able to join us today, so I will be here. But since I can't have my usual co-host, I have to bring in the host of Greenhouse, Taylor. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. It's a rainy day over here, so I feel kind of just cozy at my desk.
How excited are you? I guess, or how bittersweet is it that the season is about to come to an end?
It's bittersweet. I've been working on this for like 9 months now, 10 actually,
Mhm.
because like we filmed in May. Yeah. So it just feels like I've been working on this forever. I mean, after season one finished, I started the Excel sheet for All Stars. I wrote down the four people I wanted. It was four of the ones we got. And I just this has been what I wanted to do since we started filming these. So it's really cool to see it all come together. I'm very proud of it, and I don't know, I'm happy to finally have it all out, as a finished product. So more
You were
happy than
sitting on it for a while, sitting on a
yes.
secret.
Yeah, always sitting on a secret.
um, so when you were casting All Stars, what did you look for in an All Star?
Good question. So it originally started with 16 players. So I wanted to grab four from each season, and that was just kind of like my parameters I put on myself. Um, and I wanted to keep the genders balanced as much as possible, and I would just kind of feel out just who the four stars were of each season. Um, so I knew from the start that I wanted all the winners I could get. And from there, I just really wanted anybody who had a headline of any sort, like I think season one is a good example. We have Brandon, the winner. We have Claire, purchaser of the first fly trap, first robbed goddess of the show.
Mhm.
We had Christian, crazy ass. Um, we have Meredith, who won three immunities in a row, should have been the first person booted from the show in the entire
Mhm.
series. And we have Maddie, who was added later. I will say that. And she knows that.
Mhm.
But I also feel like she had the headline of, telling the truth and being eliminated because of Christian spinning her together. So that was another thing, like, especially if I thought that there would be a good cutaway in the first episode to what these people inner relationships were, like Maddie with Christian, or like the fly trap in season four between Ross and Gavin, that kind of thing. So I really just wanted people who made a splash, like anybody can do well, but people who actively like just made a move and like left their mark on the game I wanted in. Like, for example, Lily was someone who I wanted in the game no matter what. She was a non-negotiable for me. Because just in the what 3 or 4 rounds that she was in the game, she did something iconic in every single one of them. Like if you watch the role explanation video, she is the most featured player because she just literally she used every feature of the game, even though she wasn't there necessarily a long time. So that's really what I wanted. I just anyone who I would laugh or smile if they were on the show, was what I wanted. And I think I succeeded.
Lily created the night one fly trap. Don't get it twisted.
Do not.
Mother. I know we give her shit for this season, but she has cemented her legacy, which we'll get into.
Which
But
we get into.
um, what was I gonna say? I want to talk about something really quick. So season three, because
Okay,
I love talking about season three.
of course.
Um, the poison daisy chain. Why did the daisy chain not make an appearance this season?
Good question. Well, I originally got rid of the daisy chain because I thought it was like one too many things in the rule book. I thought that specifically having a specific round with specific new format rules just made the game a bit too unapproachable.
Mhm.
I still think that there's a bit too much of a learning curve. I think I wish the show was more easily accessible for first time viewers, though I do think the format's perfect. Um,
It
so
is.
that's why I got rid of the daisy chain in the first place, and the game still worked just fine. Um, and the poison daisy chain was fun, but I also didn't love eliminating someone just by default from a safety chain specifically. That's just less fun of an elimination for me, especially like that's why the daisy chain was the way it was originally, that you're just nominated and you choose your opponent. Like I want it to
Right.
always come down to a vote in some way. So I mean, for
Mhm.
the sake of like All Stars, and I think like one of the big themes was just like kind of blending everything I'd done so far. Like you see a bunch of just revamped seed hunts that I've done. You've seen a bunch of revamped challenges that I've done. So it definitely would have made sense to have Daisy Chain in there. Maybe I should have respun the split house twist into like some kind of like calling it a chain of some sort because it was like a school type of thing. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess that's something I would change if I would redo it. But I don't know. It's just something I was willing to part with, and it's just I don't know. I didn't have a way that was fun enough to include it, so I didn't do it.
So, is it safe to say that we won't see the return of it in the future?
Good question. I don't know. I wouldn't say never. I'm always trying to look for ways to like add more agency to players, or like I'm sure I really like the poison daisy chain, how it had a trigger based on like placing or planting seeds somewhere. I could see myself playing with that idea again. But don't bank on it. Because again,
Oh,
I really want to focus on accessibility in the next few seasons to just continue to grow
gotcha.
this.
Um, Something I wanna talk about is the actual length of the game now. So, when I played, it was 1 day. We woke up at 7 AM,
Correct.
and I didn't get the boot until 1 AM.
Correct.
So, it was a very long day. So, obviously, I think you split it into a few more days because of just stamina and endurance reasons. But what changes have you seen transitioning to a multi-day game instead of just 1 day?
Yeah, really good question. First off, everyone on production's happier, including me. I think that one of my big focuses, at least recently, has been how easy can I make it for my crew to where they want to come more often and to where I could get as many crew to join so that people don't have to do as much work. So even though we've added more time that we need filmers and that kind of stuff, I think it's a much more flexible schedule, like that kind of stuff. So everybody's a lot happier on the production side. We're not rushing the rounds as often. So I feel like that helps the show as well. I think, especially in the 1 day seasons, you could see toward the finale, like we're really kind of like, all right, y'all wrap it up. You get 10 minutes and only 10 minutes. So
Mhm.
even though like I don't know, it's just less fun. Like you could see in the episodes too that they become like 25-minute episodes, but I just prefer for everyone to get to really think through and make all the decisions they want. So I'm happy to give people that room. Also, physical stamina is a big deal. Like I would feel like I was dying on the 1 day games. So I knew it was tough for me. I don't want it to be tough on production or the players, especially. I think Greenhouse 3 especially was so brutal. Like that changed. Like it was so like it
That was a rough day.
was a rough day. It was so physically difficult. It changed the way I host. Like I don't do challenges that are as intense. Like I center everything indoors. Like that kind of like I everything because of how miserable that day was. And also strategically, I think that the end games are a lot more fun because we can give actual breathing room for people to like work the numbers and like actually figure things out instead of make a decision in 5 minutes. And I think that the promise of another day makes people play conservatively toward the end of the day. So I find that the late night rounds mid game tend to be more. The people who get targeted end up being like kind of more of the easy outs because people just want to get to the next day. Um, so yeah, those are my main takeaways.
Okay. Um, uh, I do love the greenhouse format, but something I want to talk about is kind of something I was hell bent on even in my season is kind of this idea of a final four.
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, this final four kind of runs the game. Do you want to speak on that a little bit? Just
Yeah,
kind of, do they like break
absolutely.
the format? Does it just kind of coincidentally happen? How do you feel about that?
I think the problem is not the final four. I think the problem is the lack of organization of all the other players. I think that the game is literally built to where like it, all the power balances. So if one side is hogging the power, the other side is getting the seeds. If one side is buying a bunch of stuff, the other side is going to be able to buy a bunch of stuff later. If one side can't vote this week, they're going to be able to vote more later. So I think that because a lot of the times when I'm running the game, like when I do like Excel sheet just practices, just to like just run it strategically for myself, I play it more like as groups going after each other, and that always it ends up being very balanced most of the time. I mean, obviously, if I'm running it, I'm going to make myself have fun, but I really don't think it is a Final Four alliance that breaks the game, and honestly, it doesn't bother me that it breaks the game because another purpose of the show is that it's so easy for any one person to upend anything. If you just make the right kind of bid, if you lie to the right person, if you play the uproot on the right person, by the right person, you can throw the right person on the block and use bank votes to send anyone home. Like truly at any point, anyone can unilaterally screw everyone over. So
Mhm.
even if you have a four that's loyal to each other, some of them have to know that they are going to lose brutally at the end, right?
Mhm.
So that's what happened in season four. You have the top four, and they did make it to the end together pretty much. But by the time you got to three, most of those, most of the heavy hitters in that group were sniped. You know, so that's how you get
Mhm.
the. I think if everyone's playing correctly, then either the players outside of the four are actually organized and can actually figure out the game and target the people in power, which I think even after this season we're still waiting to see. um, and
We still
otherwise,
have one more round. Well, I mean, with the 4
well, we're at
specifically,
four. We're
but
at
we'll get into that, we'll get into
We'll
that.
get into
But
that.
yeah,
We'll get
okay,
into that.
yeah.
Sorry, I was talking
Mhm.
in the context of a four
No, I
specifically.
know, that was me.
Um, even though this season did weirdly stay balanced the whole time, even though like one side was much less organized than the other. Um, and I think
For sure.
regardless, even if the flops are not playing correctly, which more than often they won't, because though also it just kind of breaks my mind that if you're not in a final four, what do you think is happening? But anyway, um, regardless, I think that members of an actually active and successful Final Four should correctly be thinking how to snipe each other because every single one of them has the power to veto the entire thing, pretty much from Final Eight on. So
Mhm.
the game enables aggressive play, and I think that that aspect of the game kind of adds tension the entire time, even if they do run the table. Like for season three, for example, your final four made it all the way, and you, the person in fourth place, had like 5 opportunities to upend it all. you know,
I really did, but that's a
you really
conversation
did.
for another
That's a
day,
conversation for
but
another time. But yeah, I don't think that it's a problem with the game. In fact, I think the game actively helps the people who do not benefit from that, which is most of the people.
no, I totally agree, I totally agree. Um, I can stand here and admit that I was an idiot in that stance, and so it is up to the player to make the move they want to make if they wanna make it, even though I'm sitting here shading the girls all season for not making the move, as if I wasn't one of them. But, I guess my final question before we move into this episode, and something else we have planned. What did you want to accomplish with the All-Star season? And I know you're proud, so I won't say are you proud of it, but did you accomplish it? Did you kind of learn something else from it that you weren't expecting? Yeah, just kind of a whole consensus on the season.
Yeah, I think that, and I gave a little speech at the end of the show. It's not in the show, but I'll probably post it like later.
It's
Um,
on the Patreon.
it's on the Patreon. It's on the Patreon. But I think that this season really just puts a cap on what I consider the start of the greenhouse. You know, these first 5 seasons, I've been incredibly lucky to have some of my closest friends play a game that I made, which is crazy in general when I'm hosting like Survivors and Big Brothers and that kind of stuff. But it's extra special whenever I'm just dealing with something that's completely my own creation. And for people to want to do that in the first place and want to do it twice is crazy. And I also think that as the show grows, like I'm gonna host here in Austin. That's the plan for season 7. I'm starting to get applications of people who want to play the game who I've never met in my life. I mean, you're an example of that. And I just think that it's a good capstone on kind of the like small pool version of the game. And I think that moving forward, it's just going to get so much bigger. So really taking a moment to do an all-star season at this point, when the highlight was literally my closest friends in my life, is just such a special just life moment for me. So I wanted to make it as fun as possible for everyone because like I just wanted everyone to have a really good and special time because I knew it would be. And I just wanted it to really just be the sum of everything I've put together. And I think that's true, honestly. Like, this could qualify as all stars for all of my games I've ever hosted. Like these people have been playing for decades or over a decade with me. And I just wanted to make it as big as possible. It's the biggest season for a reason. It has the most episodes for a reason. And I don't know, it was big. I think every single round was fun. And yeah, it was just successful in every way and sentimental in every way.
Okay, a couple more questions based off that. So
Yeah.
you would say that this All Stars is better than any All Star you've hosted?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. I would say that.
And then would you say this is technically the end of Era 1?
Yes.
So what can we as the audience expect from the new era coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to play some more with themes that you kind of saw in season 4. I definitely, with between season 6 and 9, I want to have I want to have more or less a back to basics season, which is just like 13 players, not too many shenanigans. I want to just make an entry level season for everyone to recommend new watchers to see. That's likely going to be season 7. So that's the main thing I'm focusing on. I want to focus on more diversity in casting. I want to focus on more equitable competitions, even though I do think I've been successful at that so far. And yeah, I just want the game to be more accessible for viewers and for players, and so that I can keep growing the way that it is. I don't know. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, of course. It's whatever you want us to know about Era 2.
And yes, I want to do an all stars every 5 seasons. And yeah, I think I'll come up with other just like patterns and casting things I want to do. I want to bring more players back for sure.
Do you, because we saw Jessica return for season 4, do you think there's a world where other players return before the next All Stars?
Absolutely. Because I don't know, I don't think fans versus favorites is an unfair thing in something like this. One thing one idea that it's really dumb that I'm kind of working on is I want to do a season where the theme is the number 2. Which is just dumb and like makes no sense, and it's not even like season 2, so why would anyone do that? But I want to do
A
like
duo season,
but I want to do,
perhaps?
like maybe a duo season, but also like second chances, like bring a
Hmm.
+1 or something like, but like
Ooh, blood
not
versus water type?
yeah, blood versus water type, but like not even a pure version of any of those casting things. Like 4 people with this casting theme, 4 people with this casting theme, but it's like all the number 2, and it's kind of dumb. So that's
Okay.
another thing that I just love about the show is that we're so like we don't take ourselves too seriously. Like we very much lean into the fact that this is a $5 budget show, and like just have fun with it, do whatever we want, and just kind of like justify it later.
Okay.
So
So,
I think I'll have another big season before All Stars 2. Yeah.
okay. After Back to Basics.
After Back to Basics, there's just
Okay.
I have 100 ideas. I also really, and I want to throw this out there. I really want to do a season where I have hosts from a bunch of other LRGs, and it's just like hosts,
Ooh.
potentially hosts and winners of their respective shows. Like everyone comes and brings like a castmate of their choice. I just would really like. I would like to be the hub of like, or pushing a movement of like LRGs working together and like just overlapping. Like I've done that with Ascendance a lot. Like I just want to keep doing that.
You know, there I won't say anything about what I just thought about what you just said, but that's a conversation off camera. But you said a season with hosts. I mean, we have not seen you play one of your own games in a while. Could that include yourself?
I would put myself in. Yes, I would invite all the other hosts to try to beat them at my game. There actually was a world where I considered putting myself on this season on All Stars.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
My entrance line would have been, "I brought you girls into this world, and I can take you out of it."
Ooh, that would have been the best one.
So yeah, I did. There is a world where I play Greenhouse eventually, but
Okay,
I want to
cool.
establish it.
Okay, and then oh, okay, last thing, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
We saw Brandon host season 4. We saw Miss Didi host season 5. Can we expect to see you back as the host anytime soon?
Yes, I'll be back for season 6, and I'll be back indefinitely.
Ooh, besides hosts
Besides,
versus their winners.
versus their winners.
Okay.
I need to decide what winner I'm bringing. Oh well, that's a conversation for a different day.
I'll help you workshop that idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last words just about the season in general before we move into this recap?
No, I'm just so thrilled and so thankful. This is the craziest thing ever. Can't wait for another round.
Okay. So, we've had a theme on the podcast as of late that the
Yes,
eliminated players love to have their moment. So we have to give you your moment as well.
absolutely.
So, what are we going to do today, Taylor?
Okay, so I'm doing what I call a legacy check. So I'm going to just go through the boot list and give my thoughts on what this season did to each player's legacy. And that might just be me just saying random thoughts about like the casting process, about just what I think about each player's arc between the 2 seasons. Honestly, I didn't even prep anything, so we're just gonna it's gonna be like a Rorschach test. So we're gonna put a player on the screen. I'm just gonna say what I think.
Okay. So then who other to start with than our season 4 winner and our first boot of Greenhouse All-Stars? You have to pull it up because you're running the stream.
Yeah, no, okay, give me one sec. Okay. All right, I believe I'm sharing. Gavin.
Okay.
Okay.
Girl, put her in present mode.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Gavin.
Yes. I'm always so
Thoughts
bad.
on Gavin.
Thoughts on Gavin. I don't know. Gavin, I was thrilled to have back. Of the season 4 guys, he was the one that I was actually the most bullish on doing well. Just because I thought that he came across like more gentle than the other two. I think Ross came across as just a real like leader, strong like alpha type, and I think Dylan came across as just shady. While Gavin, even though he was just as shady and just as much as a leader as them, like had confessionals talking about how sad he was about it. And I don't know. I think it's a fun 2-season arc because in both he starts off at the bottom of the first activity. He was the bottom of the pyramid here, and he was unpicked in the first team pick of season 4, and just had the opposite outcome both times. And I don't know, you could see in the mega cut how more or less he says that he would prefer to be the first to go of the season 4 since he already won, which was just kind of It was sweet, honestly, just considering their friendship, which was real, even though Dylan kind of tanked them all with his Instagram post that the literal four people who were coming to All Stars did an escape room together like 2 weeks before.
Mm.
So anyway, that's just my thoughts on Gavin.
Really
Seemed
quick
like yeah,
question, because there's been a lot of discourse, because of course, me and Matthew have talked to a lot of the girls this season.
of course.
Um, so, and I'm actually talking about girls, Jessica, not seeds. But
Hilarious, by the
um,
way.
who started the season 4 push? Who started the push to target season 4?
Brady.
Ooh, okay. Because a lot of girls like to take credit for it.
A lot
So,
of people like to take credit for it. According to what I understand from going through the footage, I will say Brady, though that is also like saying Brady was the first person to try to pitch an alliance. Like it's something that was going to happen, you know?
uh-huh, mhm. Um, yeah, my thoughts on Gavin is I think Hannah Montana says it best. You can get the best of both worlds. You can, which is interesting because he literally just won, and then
Yes.
he like came right back and got first boot. But very noble of him to kind of fall on the sword for his season 4 friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to see Gavin play again, honestly. Just in a situation where he's not front of mind for everyone in the cast. Like truly,
Right.
if the order of the seasons were different, Gavin would be in Brandon's position right now. You know?
Right. Mhm.
Oh
I
well,
agree.
Gavin, don't take it too hard. I still think you're one of the best. Okay.
Next is
Maddie.
Maddie.
I feel so guilty about Maddie's placement.
What?
No, I will say for from a series perspective, as a producer, I think it's cool to have someone just be the most screwed over person in the world twice.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that she's an example of the wrath of both Schneiders, just in different ways. Claire's being just like in the drama at all costs, and to take control, and Brody being just make a complete off the wall move for whatever reason. Even though I actually do think Maddie was a good choice for Brody to eliminate, straight up.
I agree. Mhm.
But anyway, Maddie robbed. Maddie's another person who I could see bringing back. I'm and look straight up. I'm gonna say it for everybody. I would like to see everybody play again at some point. I've joked that All Stars 2 should just be All Stars 1, 2 of just the same cast and put them in the house again. Um,
Mhm.
but I think Maddie would be someone for like that fans versus favorites type of thing of just like people who I think didn't have a fair shot, like a John Michael. I would love to have back. Um, I was about to say someone from season 6. But anyway, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Maddie.
Yeah, I think Maddie, over her 2-season run, I feel like she's the queen of, like, unfinished business. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I feel like she always has her intentions set, but she's never really dealt the right hand to execute it. Or like you said, as we talked about the game earlier, how you can take every opportunity to kind of make a move if you want to. I feel like she's been the victim of that both times.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just taken out before she even had time to react or do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
Which is the nature of it, is the nature of it. It just sucks that it happened to her twice.
Mhm. Yeah, of
Especially on
course.
night one, which is so brutal. And I do recognize that the night one fly trap is brutal, but sorry.
It's All Stars, baby.
All Stars Baby, I would produce it the exact same way. If we want 18 slots, I got to get people out the house somehow. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure, for sure.
sorry,
Mhm.
mama. Um,
Get to 7.
get to 7. All right.
Dylan.
Versus Team Dylan, I think it's funny that Dylan was eliminated by the same kind of lie that got him through the first round of season 4. So like the same kind of shenanigans just didn't work with this group. I think that's a fun arc, like just between the 2 seasons. Dylan's a strong player. I said going into the season that I thought he was the strongest greenhouse player up till that point. I don't hold that view anymore, but I still think he's still in my top 10. Um, Though also I think it's just hard to use this game as an indicator of how strong different players are because of how wildly different the table draws were. Like I think this game was just so difficult for anyone from season 4. um,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Ross made it work, so it wasn't impossible.
Very true. Yeah, I guess I have a question because of course we talk about how Christian was kind of crazy season 1, and based on the edit, I have not watched the mega cuts, but
And I
how
didn't.
integral
Sorry.
what?
By the way, I did not expect anyone to watch the mega cuts. The fact that anyone has is crazy. And thank
Oh,
you,
if
by
I
the
was on there, I would watch every single
way.
mega
Yeah,
cut.
which is fair. But
Yeah.
sorry, I interrupted you. What were you
No, you're
saying?
fine. But just kind of, I want you to talk about how integral Christian was in that, and like, do you think Dylan that ultimate? I mean, do you
Yeah,
think Dylan was screwed either way, or do you think that just shot him dead right away?
extremely good question. Okay, so I have a couple different thoughts. One is that I don't care if someone is saying like who's has the caliber to be here. If I'm a player, I do not care. If I'm listed as one of the people who are not a good all star, that honestly is kind of good news to me. I don't want people to care about me at all. The only way that that makes me care is if I think that people won't take me seriously going later into the game. But the fact that this all
Mhm.
happened when there were 16 people left, I just don't really get why anybody cared. So that's one thing. So that's one thing to just know for anybody who's coming and play one of my games. Just culturally in my community, it is weird and always frowned upon to just like talk about who deserves to be where. Because the second you say someone doesn't deserve to be there, then all of a sudden you're the bully and you got to go, even though truly every single person who made it to the top 5 or more was saying we need all the strong players to stay together. We need all the strong players to stay together. And that's the gist of what Dylan was saying. He just said it the harshest of all of them. So anyway, I think it's just like a natural aversion and offense and like the ego part of it, which is just part of an all-star game, of anyone not being called an all-star. They want to just show you that they are an all-star immediately. Um, and yeah, I do think that that is the reason Dylan went home. Just from what I could tell, being there the day of, just the narrative spread like wildfire. And I truly think there's no other reason to get out Dylan there. In fact, you could see that Thomas specifically wants Patrick out. And I think that it's much more likely that he helps like a Dylan type character get off the block instead of Patrick. But I think there were enough people against Dylan that someone like Thomas, who like helped keep Patrick off the block, who I think probably was the best choice to go that week. Um, so I think Patrick was able to survive because of how much of a negative connotation Dylan had. That just everybody was happy to send him home as an easy out start of the day. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Way
agree.
more than
I feel like since it was the start of the second day and there was all this talk night one that like this is just night one and like what happens in night one stays in night one. I feel like there's a lot of groupthink surrounding that idea to
right.
where it was kind of like going into the second day, there wasn't a ton to go off of or like reasonings to make certain moves. Um, where I feel like Dylan was just a victim of circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, the early rounds of these games are always going to be like, and honestly, like the strategy is get an easy out and just buy yourself time, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
right.
I mean, the
Mhm.
game's going to be complex enough. There's 100,000 people in this house right now. So let's just basically make the decision to make the elimination decided so that I could actually start building something when the game actually
Right.
starts. So I don't know. I guess it's on Dylan for making himself an easy out. But that's the other thing. Like, it wasn't even like Dylan's opinion. It was Dylan's opinion on what Brody's opinion was. So another
Mhm.
like I don't get why people cared to the extent they actually cared, but I get why people piled on him to the extent that they wanted to just stay alive.
Right. I mean, honestly, I would too in that moment, like, if it was
Yeah.
me, kinda like how you said.
Oh my god.
Um,
If I'm not
using
close,
that time
yeah.
using that time to go establish connections for later on, and just going with whatever is thrown at me in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And good on people like Brody for avoiding being dogpiled. You know, I think Brody
Yeah.
was a good example of how to avoid that kind of thing. Um, I don't know. I just thought that was impressive. I'll talk about Brody when we get to Brody.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, Shakira, my season 3 winner queen.
Yes, I'm obsessed with Shakira. When casting All Stars or deciding the date for All Stars, there were two players who I wanted to make sure I scheduled around, and that was Lily and Shakira. I wanted the two of them, mainly because I just think it's so cool that Shakira's first introduction to anything like this was the Greenhouse 3. And since then, like she started watching Survivor, she watched a bunch of other Greenhouse seasons, and like she's an actually like super knowledgeable strategic player coming into the season. So I was just so excited to see her because how successful she was based on her charisma alone. Just that paired with experience, I was so excited to see. She did impress me. I think she was another scenario. I think just having her and Thomas on the same season was going to be difficult always. And ultimately, Thomas has over a decade on her in doing this stuff.
Right.
So I don't know. I think Shakira is another player with a bad table draw here this season, but I think that she absolutely. I felt like she came across the season like overall improving her legacy on the show. I think that she came across as just very strong strategically, very strong at just reading people, very strong at reading people. I don't know. Shakira is one of my favorite players ever. She'll be on again if I can book her.
Right. She's booked and busy. Her schedule is tight. But I agree. I think Shakira's biggest thing coming into the season was to just prove that she like has the strategic chops. You know what I mean? Since Thomas and I were like a big part of the strategic brain in season 3 that pushed us to the end. So I think seeing that like strategies side to her brain was really good to see. I just wish that like obviously like Thomas and Shakira, the whole perception was a big thing. I
Yeah,
think Shakira's biggest thing is like Shakira has very correct reads. And sometimes when people are playing the game, playing into the perceptions of the game, Shakira's not going to do that. She's going to call it out and be like, I'm not falling for like whatever this is that you're trying to say, to where that becomes threatening to other people in the game because they're not misting her. You cannot miss Shakira.
yeah, absolutely. I think she is easily one of the most capable players in all of the Greenhouse. And truly, the more time she plays, the more of a killer she will be.
For
Um,
sure.
no,
Tragic that
and
she was the first season 3 girl to go.
tragic. And no, I am serious when I said I scheduled the season around Shakira and Lily specifically. Thomas originally could not make it to All Stars.
Ooh.
I did not schedule it around my own twin brother. I
Well, you're
wanted,
like, you've had 10 years, girl. You're good.
yeah. So that's Shakira.
Love Shakira. Next, we have
Next,
Ava, which is an interesting case. I want to
very.
hear your thoughts on Ava. I want
I
you to tell
think
me about Ava.
I think that Ava is one of the players who played more or less the opposite game between her two seasons. I think that in her first one, she was just so energetic and like wanting to do everything. I think it's even in her first confessional that she's like, I'm saying too much. I can't stop myself from talking. You know, like I already said that I know Taylor from another reality show. Like, why would I say that? That kind of thing. While I think in this one, she was much more reserved and hesitant to put herself out there. So I think she's one of the people who overcorrected between the two seasons. And as a result, I think some of the star power that got her here in the first place didn't show as much this season. I was sad to hear Ava called furniture last episode. I am obsessed with Ava. In any, like, I think she's on two other shows of this. You could see me Stan commenting in the comments about Ava, Olympia, and Home Alone. That is, by the way, shout out to them. So I'm an Ava Stan. Let me be very clear. Ava will be back on the show. And I don't know. I just think that she overcorrected. And I think that she was underestimated as an ally. I think that She was so loyal and so helpful to Thomas, but Thomas didn't give her the time of day, and I cannot tell you why. And I genuinely think that Thomas should have picked Ava to join his house before someone like Christian. I don't remember the exact order of the picks, but I think that Ava should have been someone that Thomas prioritized as an ally, which ideally should have translated into her being in his house and her being safe. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely do think Ava's an icon. I do think that she kind of faded back this season. I don't know if it was just because there was so much going on and she was just like anxious within herself to where it was just a lot going on for her.
Mhm.
Um, but I agree. I feel like Thomas should have realized how loyal Ava was being to her, but I also feel like this narrative of season 4 kind of like shot her in the foot, especially
Mhm.
when Ross was doing as much as he was.
Exactly. And like she wasn't even considered part of season 4 because Ross specifically
Mhm.
kept rejecting
Yeah,
Ava as well. So she was kind of a part of no group. She was like an other to everybody.
right.
You know? And another thing I want to point out is I think Ava is actually the most green to this at this point because everybody from the other seasons they've played before, they've had multiple seasons or have come crew and that kind of stuff. And from season 4, you have Ross, who's related to Claire and everybody, so who has kind of a social in with everyone. Gavin, who hosts games like this and is just very immersed into thinking and like doing this kind of stuff. You have Dylan, who's the same way, who hosts his own show. And this is and this is one of Ava's first few times like still doing this. So I think everyone else either had a social in just from knowing people for a longer time, or more of a, I guess, mindset in of having extra practice at doing this. I think she was I think that she had one of the worst just like opening draws. um
Yeah, I wish she just had, because like Ava has that like energy, you know what I mean? And
oh,
I just felt like it was kind of, I don't know if it was she was just in her head. Like that's yeah. I don't know if that's what it was to where she like put a lot of pressure on herself or like overcorrected, like you said, to where
mhm.
I wish she just kind of realized like, yeah, I am an all-star and I deserve to be here and I'll show you why I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also don't know how much of that is her being the youngest player too.
Mm.
I think she's like
I didn't know. I
19.
didn't know she was the youngest.
Yeah, she was the youngest.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Okay.
Shout out to Ava.
Next.
Next, Claire.
Ah,
Uh,
you start. You can start.
I think Claire is first and foremost a producer. Um,
Yes, ma'am. Hmm.
I will never ever have to ask Claire, can you do that again on camera? I think that, I mean, obviously she helped build the show. I think she's the entire plot of season 1.
For
Um,
sure.
I think that she would be a lovely person to have in the winner's circle. Um, and I think that season 1, pretty much everybody did what she asked, which speaks a lot to just her persuasiveness, her charisma, but also her intensity. And I
Hmm.
think that putting her in a room of all stars who are going to be more withholding, I think caused her to panic early on. And you could
For
see that
sure.
from episode 1. One of my favorite things and that I really was hoping came across in the episode was you catching that every time Claire came up, it was because Claire brought herself up. You know,
Literally.
I think Claire had a much better draw than she realized, even though she did have one of the biggest reputations going in. Um, I think that if she would have, I'm trying to think of who to even compare to of who like played it cooler. I guess like a Meredith, honestly. Well, but because Meredith came in also expecting to be a big threat because of how challenge oriented in all of her challenge wins, but then she looked around, saw that no one was talking about her, and was just like, "Okay, I'm going to stick with this." Um, I think
Hmm.
I think if Claire had a similar mindset, I think she would have seen similar success. Um, Not to mention, like she was on the wrong side of the vote for the first time, like kind of ever, and blindsided for the first time ever. So I think because of that, she made a couple rookie mistakes as far as just like revealing her hand. She had no reason to tell
Mhm.
Thomas that she voted
Yep.
against him.
Totally agree.
And if she doesn't do that, then immediately before the team pick, then maybe Thomas targets Meredith. Maybe Thomas targets Shane. But instead, Claire is the forefront of his mind of who he's mad at and the person he picks the house
Of
for.
course, that's the first thing I would do too if I were Thomas. Why are you
Yeah.
telling me that you voted against me right before this?
Yeah, and if anything, I care more about the person who told me that she was voting with me and then didn't, compared to Shane, who was pretty upfront about it, even though he is obviously against Thomas, and Meredith, who was
Mhm.
upfront about it, but we haven't had much of a relationship. You know, so
Right.
yeah, I think Claire had a few unforced errors, but I don't think it does anything to her legacy on the show. I think that she was iconic, and I think that she brings the drama. I mean, you can't deny it. I think she'll be the
For
first one to
sure.
tell you.
For sure. No, I love Claire. One of my favorite memories of Claire is during filming of season 3. She wasn't there all day, and she pops up randomly, and me being a fan of the greenhouse, I'm like, "Oh my god, like, Claire's here. Oh my god." And she comes up to me as Brody's, like, filming one of my confessionals, because I loved that one-on-one confessional
Of
during
course,
season 3.
and thank you. More players need to take note. More players need to take note.
Um, she comes up to me and she goes, "I just flew in from Florida, but I heard you were here, so I had to come and meet you and see you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I mean, I feel like that's also Claire just putting on the charm too. Yeah, one of my favorite memories with Claire, and also when she was in Nashville, but I'm not really gonna talk about that on stream. But, um, um, yeah, I think Claire was in her head a lot. Like, Claire will always produce, she will give the drama. She's the face of season 1, in my opinion. Like we said earlier, I think she was robbed season 1. She very much deserved it in my eyes.
Mhm.
Um, but like I said in previous podcasts, like Claire would be in a conversation, but she wouldn't be there mentally. She would be there physically, but not mentally. You could see her zoned out, staring off into the distance, because I know she's probably thinking in her head all these scenarios and how she wants to navigate them and like how to make certain moves that she wants to make.
Mhm.
To where I just wish Claire was a little more present, like you said. I wish she kind of
Yeah, and I
found out the lay of the land and decided how to navigate there.
agreed. I also think she could have been much more proactive. I think that because she did enter the greenhouse twice in the 4 rounds that she was in. So the first
Mhm,
time she chose immunity specifically because she knew it would do nothing, and the second time she chose tulip because it would have the lowest impact. But I think that specifically because she put herself in a neutral position, just she had fewer outright offers at the start, and I think that was the
mhm.
big thing that she was concerned about is nobody's pulling me in for anything. But also, it's because you specifically put yourself in positions not to be in the decision,
Totally.
which is
Yep.
fine and a fair strategy. But as soon as you're nervous about not having anything solid, I think at that point, especially around round 2 or 3, it's up to you to start actively building something. If you're not brought into something by 3, there is something going on, whether or
Mhm,
not it's official or not. So you need to get moving.
mhm.
So
I
that's
agree.
just my biggest request of future greenhouse players is if you are not in an active alliance, get organized. There's come
I
on.
mean, I wasn't really in an active alliance until, like, round 5, I wanna say.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake. But for your season, there were people who were not in an active alliance until round 10.
Yeah, no, literally
Which is
literally, I got
other people
lucky.
made a bigger mistake.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Um, yeah, next.
Okay, Thomas, iconic.
Thomas.
Thomas is another person who knows how to work the camera. He's just visibly been doing this for over half of his life. I think it is so cool for Thomas. Similar to Claire, he got everything his way his first season, and this time he got pushed back pretty early on. And it was fun to see him play defense too and to do it successfully. I think it's so funny watching him Charlie Brown Shane for 100 years. And he's just funny and shady and mean, but like it's all fun, and you can tell it's all fun. Like if Thomas is in the game, I'm enjoying it. Um, just so funny.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think I love Thomas. I am the type to where if you get me out, I respect it more than being, like, bitter about it. Also, just because I, like, realize how good of a player Thomas is, because like he said, he's been playing for so long. Um, so I was very interested to see him come into this, especially with Shakira, and seeing how he
Mhm.
would navigate that relationship and that, like, target right away. Um, Obviously, I don't think they did the best job since they're both pre-jury,
Yeah,
but I was just really excited to see them play again. Thomas is just one of the best allies I have ever worked with.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
He strategically just gets it. Like, you don't even have to tell him. He already knows. He's already running all the scenarios. He already knows what's the smartest move, to where, like, it was just so in unison, me and him.
Mhm.
Just one of the most smoothest relationships I've ever had. So I was super excited to see him play again. And I'm very shocked that they thought Shakira was a bigger threat than Thomas. I mean, granted, yeah, Thomas was always going to be like a shield to get out right away.
Yeah,
To continuing forward, where I feel like after Thomas left, Shakira could have shied away in the background more. Um, but yeah, I love Thomas. And I want to ask you a question,
sure.
because Thomas has played so many games over the past decade. Do you think this was Thomas's like biggest I can't wait to play this, or like I really want to do well in this, like the game that he took the most seriously?
Ooh, good
See what I'm
question.
trying to say?
Yeah, I think that the game that everyone took the most seriously, well, that's difficult. I don't know. I think everyone took Survivor All Stars really seriously.
Mhm.
Because it was like very similar cast to this one. Well, I feel like this one just I think Thomas's first confessional was genuine. Like, I am here to have fun. And
Mhm.
because I think, especially because Thomas doesn't play as often, I think he just really wants to live it up and, just make TV when he doesn't now.
Mhm.
I think that All Stars was around the time that just everyone was still playing very often and wanted to just, like, everyone cared about their average placement. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like had a spreadsheet of it. Um, so, but I think that that really speaks to the player Thomas has grown into. Just as we've gotten older, I think he just sees the fun in it, and also because it's such a rarity, and he just sees it as just such a special way to like just do it again. Um, I just think that he's having more fun.
Yeah.
Which I'm also just a big believer in carrying 70%. And I think that Thomas is very near that right now.
Yeah. I agree. It's a set.
It's a set. My favorite entrance line, and also I do think that the biggest vote of the game was not getting Jessica out at the Shakira.
For sure. Thank
That
you.
was the defining moment of the season. I think it's safe to say at this point.
Totally agree, which I think
Totally agree.
how I feel about that
Yes,
move.
but just know that I echo all of that. I think it was a huge mistake not to get Jessica out there.
For sure.
Okay, 11th place
Ooh,
Christian, iconic.
Christian.
Christian, I love Christian. I think that Christian's as a player, I think we're actually seeing Mello out more in a way that I do think is making him better at the game. I think that he just really wanted to prove that he was a good player for a lot of his early seasons, and I think now he's very just comfortable in the way that he's performed before. So I genuinely think he has a much more just like stable approach to these games. I mean, you could see it in the way that I clowned him on this one. He was telling everyone the same thing. He's just very regimented and like specific in the way and consistent in the way that he communicates to everyone, mainly so that he doesn't get tripped up. So he could always say, "No, I said exactly this." So I think it's a
Mhm,
very interesting way that he's developed as a player. I think it comes across as too hollow, and I think that that's eventually what got Jessica to not buy anything that he was selling, which eventually sent him home. Um,
mhm.
so I don't know. I think it's just interesting between the two seasons. I think season one, you have a lot of unexperienced players who buy a lot of what Christian sells or who need to buy what Christian sells. But as soon as Christian's another all-star, it's easier to ignore what he's asking. And also, I think that he could have kept playing the middle. I think that his decision to try to really be the champion of his coffee house group is the reason he went out
Mhm.
to 11 instead of 7.
Totally agree. Um, I don't think Christian gives himself enough credit based on the
Mhm.
conversations I've had with him, just about the season and everything in general. Because when I look at season one, to me, the faces are like Christian and Claire.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, Christian is definitely one of the most notable characters. So of the like the series, I would say,
Mhm.
um, but I agree with you in saying that it comes off a bit hollow. Like it's good to keep your story straight with everyone, but then you need to give nuggets to other people. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
separate that relationship for them to trust you more to where you can fall back. And again, like you said, well, I said this to you, I didn't say this to no one else. To where kind of his demise was like, oh, he promised me final two also. Between
Right.
who was it? Meredith and I forget who it
Brady, I
was.
think. Brady, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
was Brady.
but yeah, I just also think that like one of his main strategies is to get people to underestimate him and like kind of act kind of dumb, or at least that's what he claims. Which I think
Mhm.
is another, like when you're putting on a show as your main way of connecting with people. I think that's just another way. It just makes it that much harder to get like your tightest bond in the game. Like when I play, I honestly really like to play it up and be dumb and whatever. But when I'm making a one-on-one connection, I kind of drop it. If anything, to
For
seem even
sure, for
to seem
sure.
like even more like genuine, because you're getting the
Of
real deal.
course. Right.
I'm dropping character now.
Yeah, no, totally.
I think that Christian kind of is missing that part right now.
Yeah, I no, I totally agree with that because that's a strategy I use as well. Like, I love playing the ditzy, dumb bitch, but then when I talk to you, girl, okay, blah, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, break.
Yeah, let's go.
Um,
Um,
so would you say, because there's been some discourse in the Reddit, not actually, but figuratively, that Christian plays up a femme persona on camera. Would you say that
um,
Christian thinks playing a femme persona makes him look dumb and ditzy?
um, yes, but not because it's film. It's because he is being film. I think it's him
Mhm.
making a comment on I am this like regular degular guy quoting Drag Race right now. This person who like probably visibly would not guess he has even heard the name Alyssa Edwards is now trying to, and it looks silly that I'm doing it. So
Mhm.
I see the critique, but I think that surprisingly, it's a bit more layered for Christian.
For sure. I see the layers. Okay, next.
um, okay,
Mm,
Shayna. Shane, in my opinion, is the
let's talk
star
about
of like
Shane.
Shane is the star of the first half of the season. I think he really just brought what I wanted the tone of All Stars to be. Of this is my second time. I'm not going to mess it up this time. I think he brought a level of revenge that I have yet to see on any
Mhm,
of my seasons. I think it
mhm.
added a really fun tone to the season. Um, and just Shane is just an extremely strong strategic player. You really can't touch him. I think honestly, everyone in the audience was robbed that Shane went out so early. Which this is halfway through the game, which is very far with this group at least. But I think Shane in day three would have been crazy. I think that Shane would have been willing to cut a lot of people's throats in a way a lot of these loyalists have not.
For sure.
So anyway, Shane is just endlessly entertaining to me. I will have him back whenever he wants to be back. Um, and yeah, we were robbed.
Yeah, no, I love Shane. Like I said, Shane was a strategic mind I realized early on to where I was like, okay, he's got the strategic chops for sure, down. Um, but what he lacked was the social game. So before I go into further thoughts, what do you think? Shane lacks socially that isn't giving him that capital, or to, yeah, just to be able to get a chokehold on the game?
I think that at least as a player, Shane is worried about people thinking about him more than people are thinking about him. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that he thinks that people are still replaying these season 3 moments more than they actually are. And I think that even though I think the revenge is one of the most fun parts of Shane being on the season for me, and honestly, it's one of the things that got him on the season in the first place. I think that adding that larger perspective of, even though this is Shane's second game, this is Thomas, for example's 25th game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I think that being more willing to I think just being more willing to work with Thomas specifically would have helped Shane a lot. I
For
think that
sure.
Shane was handed a perfect middle position, and I think that he actually should have exploited it. So I think it's maybe Shane's desire to actively just pick a side and like know where he is, and have like that stability and knowing that he's telling at least half the cast the truth. But I really think that he could have played the middle much more. Um, and I've kind of lost my train of thought, but I think that um, I mean he has all the chops, honestly. I
I
just
agree.
I don't know. I think that's specifically what tripped him up this time.
Yeah, I think it's good to, like, perceptively have a target, so for
Yeah.
him to always fall back on the, "Oh, yeah, of course, I'm coming after Thomas," but it's the fact that he was, like, that was reality instead of utilizing that perception, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and using it as a way to work with Thomas instead of against him, which I think he, like, kinda did sometimes. He would try to talk to Thomas and, like, try and get something going, but it just, like, kind of was always that weird, like, standoff of, like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I see you, but, like, we're working together, but we're not, obviously." Um, Similar to like season 3, which like Shane was really hung up on.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think Shane 1000% like had a redemption arc this season, just
Oh,
in terms of
totally.
having the capital to make those moves. I just think yeah, was a little too loyal to that group, and obviously we saw that crumble as they all turned on him. Which why do
Yeah,
you I want you to talk about the real reason why everyone turned on him so quickly.
I honestly don't know. I like that round has always confused me. I think this is what I think happened. I think it's a few things. First, it's Shane just completely drawing a line in the sand unnecessarily at the fly trap round. Yeah, he gave a seed, but like the way he revealed the information that he gave a seed, I don't think could have gone worse.
The
So
MJ
he
meme?
he has half of the cast actively saying, Shane, Shane, we want Shane out. We want Shane out. We want Shane out. And I think that second thing, he was not in the house with Patrick, Ross, and Meredith during the split round. I think that that added a bit more disconnect between them that may have helped at least start to amplify distrust that they had in him. Third, I think you have Brandon actively making inroads with Ross and Meredith specifically, even though he's on one side of the house, um, in a way that allows him to play both sides in a way that Shane did not. Shane did not have connections on the other side the way that Brandon had connections on the other side, even though both actively picked a spot, right?
Mhm.
And those people are thinking, oh, Brandon is actually probably a good ally moving forward. I think at least one or both of them talk about how Brandon specifically can shield them from his side of the house. So Brandon's the type of person that they want to make happy. Um, and Brandon's also saying Shane, Shane, Shane. So that's helping push Shane. I think another thing is this weird push around the Christian boot to get rid of the people in the middle, um, which is 11th place Christian, 10th place Shane, ninth place Brody, 8th place Brady. All of those people did not have a strong side. All of those people perceptively were playing the middle.
Mhm.
Even though I would argue none of them were. Um,
Really?
I think all of them were not playing the middle enough. I think Christian was trying to be like the flag post holder for his side of the house when he had no reason to be. I think that Shane just drew a line in the sand for the fly chop when he did not have to, and I think that Brody freaked out. I think Brody did not successfully make the flip that he was trying to make. I don't think he was trying to play the middle at that point. I think he was flipping and just did not stick the landing. And Brady, I think, was actively playing with the wrong side. Um,
Yeah.
but all those people were perceptively in the middle because they were either working with the wrong side and the people they should have trusted no longer trusted them, or they just botched it for the reasons I just said.
Right.
So anyway, so that's how you set up that line of targets, one of which is Shane. So as soon as Shane is put up more or less by default by Abrielle because she didn't want to put up any of the people actually working with her, Shane was kind of an easy out that everybody could get behind because even the people on his side were being told that Shane was revealing information. Like I think Meredith and Ross got the idea that people knew that they were a pair because of Shane, which is not the case. But just enough people were telling them Shane's playing everyone, Shane's playing everyone, that it became an easy out against Brandon, who they wanted to keep, and
Yep.
Brady, who was doing a better job of telling that side that he was loyal to them. You know, so I think it's all of those things. I think it's largely circumstantial, and I think it's a frustrating elimination because it was not an actively planned and proactive elimination. I think it's more of an everybody else earned their safety, and for whatever reason, he
Mhm.
so anyway, that's my like.
Actually, I have a thought, but I'll save it for when we get to another person.
Okay.
Remind me it's Brandon. But okay, next.
Okay. Next, Brody. Brody's run here on All Stars, and this segment is kind of turning into an entire podcast. So I'm sorry. I guess I should have
No, it's
anticipated that this
fine.
would take a while.
I like the rites of passage. I
Yeah,
really do.
and honestly, like I think this is good for a pre-finale podcast anyway, because the episodes were straightforward when we get there. I don't think we'll have too much to say. Um,
Yeah. Hold
in
on.
fact, we could.
I have to pee, but talk about Brody. I have
I'll talk
headphones,
about
so I can
Brody
hear
while
you.
you're peeing. Yeah. So I think that Brody had the type of All Stars run you want from your favorites during All Stars. I think that if like he had the type of run that you would hope Parvati would have had on Winners at War, that you would have hoped Sandra would have on Game Changers. You know, like come back, huge target. Everyone knows you're the most like strong, successful, and aggressive player, type of person who should absolutely be out first and should absolutely not be given the chance to play. But somehow he still makes it more than halfway, well into jury, actively blindsides people, actively makes moves, and adds a few more notches on his series long resume. Um, I just, every time Brady plays, I just don't think it'll actually work out for him again. But it does again. And also, I do want to say Brody announced that this was his first time getting voted out since 2014. That is just straight up not true. He got voted out in 2018 in Survivor All Stars. Um, but anyway, I think I don't know. I used to roll my eyes at how well Brody did because I was like, okay, Brody did well again, whatever. But it's cool to see it happen with a strong cast. That it feels like earned success.
Clock that T. He got voted out in 2018.
I put it out in 2018 in Survivor All Stars, episode 11. Pull it up.
um yeah, Brody is an interesting one. Because in my opinion, Brody is one of the best players I've ever seen,
Yeah,
which
unquestionable.
I'll tell him and he knows. So no need to keep tooting his horn because I say it every ball. But it was interesting because like this was an interesting arc for him because he was safe for literally basically the entire time to where he
Yeah.
like never really had to sweat, and then the one time he had to sweat, he went home.
Mhm.
Um to where it's like, and I want to ask you this, do you think that he thought he was set up better than he was?
I think he was set up.
Not taking into account what he says, because he'll say something completely
Yeah.
different. Sorry to cut you off,
Anything
but
Brody says about what he was thinking, ignore it. I he's a strong player, but he's ultimately just gonna say that he knew something that he just now thinks. But I think Brody was set up well, and I think just like Shakira's elimination, the second round that was the biggest mistake of the game was Brody's elimination at 9. I think like y'all nailed it on the podcast. He had no business going home there. And I think he was rightfully cocky that he should have made it. I think the biggest issue is that he wants to make all the moves and play the game himself. And I think that he is unwilling to trust other people to do the dirty work for him, which of course makes sense when you're someone like him. Like if you give someone power, they're likely to just turn around and shoot him. But at that point, that is what he needed to do. Or at the very least, not like throw a fit to the point that you lose all the goodwill that you need to get through this round. But regardless, I think strategically, if everyone played that round correctly, Brody would not have gone home.
1000%, I agree.
1000%. I think that it was other players' mistakes is the reason he went home.
It was way too early, and I don't know if it was the fact that this cast was so big and they had already been playing for so long, and it was day 3 to where they felt like it was late enough to do it, but you're at final 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would at least wait till like 7 or 6 with him.
Well, but like they also knew that it was 4-on-4 otherwise. So why not make it 4-1-3? You know?
Right.
I want 4-1-3 instead of 4-4, especially when they have a green thumb and a million things like,
which is wild.
Which is
we'll talk about that.
Wild.
Like wild. One of the biggest question marks in my head of this entire season. So I want to know your opinion on that, but we'll get to that when we get to the final 4.
Yeah, we will get to that when we get to that. I have a lot of opinions on the green thumb. Sometimes I worry that it's too powerful, but I also think ideally it's either used quickly or it's just hot potatoed by people who get blindsided.
Yeah, no. I think going back to your point earlier, it's on the cast for not.
It's on the cast. I think that there was high-level gameplay throughout this entire thing. Do not get me wrong. I think that truly everyone played well, and it's difficult to play a flawless game, especially in a game with this many moving pieces. So like none of these things are obvious, and I've been thinking about this for 10 months compared to 48 hours at the time, you know? But yeah, I just think it was such a big blunder for Brody to go here. I think it's really because Brandon wanted to keep things good with Meredith and Ross, which you can see come to fruition in these last few episodes. But yeah, I think too many people did not play the middle when they could have.
For sure. No, I totally agree.
And then we're taken out for playing the middle, but it's really because they didn't play the middle well enough. But anyway.
Every girl loves to think that she can play all sides, and sometimes you're just not built for it.
Sometimes you're just not built for it, like Brody.
Okay, next. Oh.
Okay.
Brady.
Okay, Brady is such a good player. Brady is such a good player, and I think that nobody took him seriously because of his run and like how ridiculous his elimination was on 3. Like truly he went out because of how badly he played around and like was trying to play badly. But he's just such a great personality for TV, and strategically he's very strong, very strong. I think that Brady is someone who could have been much more successful with like a cast that just wasn't this competitive.
Right.
You know, I think if he played season 3 again right now, I think that he would do. I think he might honestly take your spot, low key, no shade. I think
I took his spot.
We took his spot, but let me be clear: if Brady was the player he is now, I think season 3 is much more dynamic and actually one of my favorite seasons because I think it forces you to actually work with the Shane half of things and like
for sure,
gather those girls together. But anyway, so Brady throwing season 3 is the reason I don't like season 3. But But no, I think Brady's an underrated player. I think that genuinely he'll do better when he plays again.
Totally agree. I said this when Brady went home. I think Brady just needs a little more time to cook.
Yeah.
He has the right reads. He just needs to work on his mist. He needs to work on the
Yes.
groupthink. He needs to work on getting people to believe what he believes. And
Mhm.
again, like you said, I think he was just a victim of circumstance from season 3, that was everyone's kind of perception of him, and that was his reputation, to where it was hard for people to ever want to take him seriously,
Mhm.
when he was bringing up things that he wanted to do specifically,
Mhm.
to where I just feel like he could never get a lot of traction when there was already other people, like,
Agreed.
paving their own path.
And then his own recognition of that of cause is what caused him to jump ship to Meredith, Ross, and Patrick and go, I'm not playing with them. They're not listening. They can't stick to a plan. But really, he meant they can't stick to my plan.
Right.
So um, I think that people not taking him seriously is why that side did not do as well as it could have. And I also think it's why Brady jumped ship before it was actually sinking. Or correctly flip sides, but not flip sides back early enough. But
Mhm.
it's all hindsight. Patrick.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Patrick because 'cause you've heard mine, so I wanna hear yours.
I think Patrick is a criminally underrated player. I think
Agreed.
that I think that you will be hard pressed to find a player who understands the rules of the game better than Patrick. Between both of his seasons, I have agreed with I think every single plan that he pitched. I think that he understands auction strategy in a way that I have not seen any other player demonstrate. I think he understands burning seeds. I think that everything he said in his elimination episode was strategically correct. And he was robbed, is what I think. I think that he is underrated, and I think that his screen time and success in both of his seasons do not speak to how strong he is as a greenhouse player, is what I think.
No, I agree. I think Patrick is a good player. It's just similar to Brady, is that when push comes to shove in certain situations, people are not gonna listen to him as much as they might listen to other people in the house. Um, to where, like I've said on the podcast, I feel like he's always the bridesmaid because he doesn't have those stronger social connections than his allies do.
And you can see this in the way that he talks to people. He never wants to be the person to say the plan. He wants to coach it out of you. You could see this in like
Mhm.
pretty much all of his conversations with Jessica. I think he does it to Ross too. Of he's just trying to get someone besides him to say, "We need to go for Meredith." So that he could go, yes, yes, we do, and then get that person on,
Right.
and they can start saying, Jessica says she wants to get rid of Meredith. I think that's kind of smart. Or Jessica wants to get rid of Meredith. What do you think? They say, oh, that's smart. I think so too. So he wants to set it up for everyone to agree, but I think in this game, people were too cagey, and he needed to be again more proactive. Um,
Yeah.
and I think he's another person that he was sniped right before he could have made things more interesting, much like Shane. I think that he was willing to break up that core group more than the ones that ended up succeeding.
No, yeah, I feel like he is the one who showed the most that he was actually willing to make the move. We'll
Mhm.
get into Meredith because I feel like Meredith actually had the capital to do so more than anyone
Yes.
else.
Yes.
But I feel like Patrick was definitely thinking of it and he would have done it if given the opportunity. It was just like he didn't take the initiative, kind of like how you said. He wasn't just outrightly saying, maybe this is something that we should be aware of and take action on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think ultimately, like, for whatever reason, he just did not build that social capital with a large chunk of the cast. You can see that from early in the game. Like Shakira and Thomas specifically were like, I don't trust Patrick. I want Patrick out. And a bunch of people just felt like he was expendable, and he outlived them because he ended up choosing the right side. But I think that he could have spread himself socially better.
Well, yeah, I don't think Patrick was really kind of a factor until
Yeah.
a few rounds in. Patrick was just kind of existing.
No, and I think that's correct, and honestly, is a fair strategy for a game as long as this one.
Right, for
But
sure.
but you need to make it happen.
Yeah, but even, like, watching, because I've seen Patrick on both his seasons, but even watching, like, he was on Survivor Rocky Road, right? With his
Yeah,
brother?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, girl, I watched the show. But, like, I remember he was sniped early there as well,
Mm,
because obviously the target of him and his brother in the game, but also just because that core alliance kinda realized he was really the only strategic force against
mhm.
them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that goes against Patrick is he's just so visibly in it and gets it, that I think it'll be hard for him to, like, really get a fresh go at this, though I think this season was as close as it gets. 'Cause
Yeah, I think
he
the one
was
thing
not the
about
craziest person in this group.
No, for sure. I feel like Patrick always has so much information. He's so good at logging the information. I've
Yes,
joked that Patrick is always on his little notepad, but I think he needs to know how, like, when to use that information and when to hold back.
agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I just wanna echo again that I think he's just tactically very good at the greenhouse, in a way that I'm
I
excited for them
agree.
to catch up with.
Because again, like, and I've said this before, season 2, sorry, keep going on,
Yeah,
but season 2, like, I feel like Brody recognized that Patrick was really the only one on his level strategically,
correct.
and then Brody, again, set himself up to be able to make the move on Patrick when he needed to.
Mhm. No, absolutely. Um,
So
while Patrick was depending on someone like Johnny to make a move, which Johnny would never make a move, uh,
right.
ever. The most passive player I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, uh, top 6, which I guess we could also, like, kind of or actually, I wanna keep doing it the way we've been doing it. Um
Okay.
So getting to Lily, Lily is just someone who I consider very special to the show. I think that the round one fly trap is just so iconic. I changed the rules because of this woman. Um,
Mhm.
just iconic, like untouchably iconic. And I just think it's cool to see her between the two seasons. The first one where she is like the masthead of her alliance, like the poster child for like an alliance named by the rest of the cast, the Flytrap Girl. Um, to do it successfully, to win challenges, to take out her targets, um, and ultimately just get swindled by Brody, her first target at the start of the game. Um,
Mhm.
which cut to this season where she's playing much more passive, much more under the radar, in a way that I think she does successfully. So she's shown that she can
Yeah.
play. She showed that she could play a dominant game successfully. She has shown that she can play an under the radar game successfully. And then throughout all of day 3, she's shown she could play a defensive game successfully. I just think that she's a very well rounded and well faceted player. Um, I just think that she doesn't I don't think she watches any shows like this. I think the only time she thinks about it is when she's doing it. So
Mhm.
I think that truly what she's missing is just a lot of the polish that a lot of the more experienced players have. But I genuinely think she has all the chops. And it's just because she's too cool for this that she's not as like bird's eye view of it
Involved. Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's my thing is, like, I feel like we've said it on the podcast all season, like, there are times where we get Lily, like, one-on-ones, and her reads are completely correct, but then you just don't really see her taking any initiative or action,
Mhm.
on that, on these dynamics, to where I wanna ask you that is, like, is it because she was scared to be as dominant as she was season 2, or did she just kinda wanna keep playing this, like, "I'm good right now, I'll deal with it when I have to"?
No, I think that's probably the best reading of it. It's probably an overcorrection, um, of just not wanting to be that person who makes a big splash and then is kind of the talk of the town for the rest of her game until she's ultimately eliminated. I think that's a
Mhm.
fair reading of it. Um, I that's probably the best. That's Yeah, that's probably the best answer. I think also there was just a general lack of urgency, um, that I don't know. I think that she saw the dynamics but didn't realize just how dire it was.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, she had the right
Yeah.
read, but it's the type of read that someone more seasoned would see like, "Oh, this is going to get me 6th place." Where I
Right.
feel like she was seeing, "I'm not going anytime soon, so, like, I don't have to do any like, so I can just, like, flag this to my people and just try, try, try." But, like, do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, 1000.
I just don't think she had the, um just the spark to, "Oh, let me rework it." I think it's, "Oh, this is difficult, but it still works for me." Do you know what I mean?
Right. To where I wish she had, like, the initiative of season 2 when she was like, "Screw it, let's get the fly trap right now, and who cares what anyone says?" You know what I
Yeah,
mean? To where,
agreed.
like, she kind of does with, like, the rose during the Monopoly round. She's kinda like, "I'm gonna get the
Mhm.
rose, like, we're gonna go against the 2 sides," but then that never really, like, came to
Right,
fruition.
and then puts up Brady, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
I don't know
that's
why she didn't put up Shane in that instance.
I know Shane probably should have gotten 11th place.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly,
I think it was because they had that conversation in Emma's room where Shane was looking her dead in her eye and was like, "If I give you money, you're not gonna put me up, shake my hand." I think, like, that obviously had something to do with it, so, like,
yeah.
props to Shane for that, but I feel like if you are Lily and you're going on this rant about these sides and you realize that Shane is definitely more with them than Brady is, then why don't you just put up Shane?
And I think
Um,
that's actually making me think of another reason why she probably wasn't as aggressive as she needed to be, is that she's just a very loyal player, and I think she's very, like, "If no one gives me a reason to go after them, I don't need to do anything." Like,
right.
and that way I've never wronged them, so they have equally no reason to come after me. I think that's
Mhm.
kind of the way that she just views the incentives of the game. I think that one of the things that she did well, and one of the reasons why she survived, that she didn't go in the split house instead of Ava, is because of how well she did at spreading herself socially as just someone to, like, exchange favors with, you know. So I think that she did develop a favor like relationship with everyone in the house and just didn't want to jeopardize that.
For sure. Anything else on Lily?
No.
I know you love her, so
No, I will live for Lily. I live for Lily.
okay. And now we're talking about mother. This is my woman, okay?
Mhm. I think
I love me some Abrielle.
I think Abrielle honestly just had a really rough run in season 3. Truly never had footing, never had anyone who would listen to her. Like, just really had no options kind of the entire time. But again, still manages to make it all the way. Well, it was just cool this time to see her have more agency, and have more people just in her corner, um, and to feel like she, like, fought her way to the top more than, like, just happened to avoid elimination all the way to the top, you know. So it was just cool to see her like that. I think her reads are obviously incredible. I agree that she should have done more to restructure the house. Like, I think her and Lily are in the same position of, y'all had to do something. I think that Abrielle needed to make the kind of move that Meredith made, at the Shakira Thomas round. You know, like, I think Meredith saw, like, kind of the trajectory of the game and decided to put people, like, put Thomas and Shakira specifically on, like, the back pedal. Um, and I think that Abrielle had a few nomination opportunities, or like could have saved Brody, for example. Just something to just kind of up in the power structure of the game. I think that there's a lot to be said for momentum in this one, in the greenhouse, in this season specifically. Like, I think Thomas and
Yeah,
Shakira probably could have done fine, but once that they were on the block, like, once you have an opportunity to get them, like, you're gonna take it, you know. And I think
right.
that if she would have contributed to an opportunity to get out, like, a Ross or a Patrick earlier, um, they could have done it. Just for whatever reason, Meredith was the one who happened to go up, and it was always by Meredith's volunteering and Meredith being completely safe.
Yeah. I think something you say right about Abrielle is that I think Abrielle is the type of player to where she is going to do whatever is going to get her to the next round.
Mhm.
More so than kind of see the trajectory, like you said with Meredith. I feel like she sees it, but she doesn't act on it because she
Mhm.
just wants to make everyone else happy. So that way, going into the next round, there's no reason to go after her. You know what I mean?
Or I think it's more she's not willing to do it if it means it will put her out of the game earlier than otherwise.
Okay. So, because my thing with Abrielle is like she has the gift of gab, I feel.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people listen to her. I think, for example, when Jessica was supposed to renominate Abrielle and then
Crazy.
crazy, and it
That
was
was
all it took
crazy.
was a death stare, and I was like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah."
It was
But I
incredible.
think I think people don't talk enough about Abrielle's like power of persuasion because,
Mhm.
like you said about season 3, Abrielle was totally on the bottom after the Poison Daisy chain because she was linked to Allie, right?
Mhm.
And then you kind of see this push for Abrielle to stay because Brady and Rogue were on the block together, which was another duo that needed to be
Mhm.
shot at. And then you see Abrielle go all the way to the end, and then you even see myself be like, I'll go to final 3 with Abrielle and Thomas.
Mhm.
I'm ready to flip on my 4 for Abrielle. You know what I mean? To where I feel like people need to give her more credit just for her social game.
Oh, absolutely. And she's so good at playing like when there are no options left, like at the final six here. I think Abrielle was a smarter person to give sixth place.
For
Um,
sure.
for because she's more respected, more visible as like a winner contender than Lily, and has done better in challenges than Lily. Like
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, Abrielle should have gotten sixth place. But what pitch does she make? Don't give me sixth, give me fifth. You know, iconic.
Mm-hmm.
That is all you need to make one more step, and then you might win the challenge. Like someone might get antsy and make a move. I also think Abrielle should have survived the final five here. You know, I I think
You
that
think?
I do because Brandon was the deciding vote,
Actually,
and it
yeah.
was between
Mm-hmm.
Abrielle and Jessica. If I am Abrielle, I go, every single person wants me out of the game right now, including you, Brandon. Don't give me fifth, give me fourth, because you know those two also want me to get fourth. So you can guarantee that they are going to bring you to three if you keep me right here. Can you have that same
Mm-hmm.
guarantee, 100% guarantee with Jessica in the game?
With
You
Jessica, who people perceptively don't
don't
respect.
respect. You have been doing this for 3 days. Take the 100% and give me fourth, not fifth.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
what Abrielle
No,
should have
yeah. Yeah, but
said.
I think it's funny because like you see Abrielle at 6 be like, well, just give me fifth for the bit. Like, haha, it'll be funny. You know what I mean? You're gonna get rid of both of us anyways, which cool. That buys her the round. And then it's so funny because they're like, oh, for the bit, for the bit, for the bit. But then you see Abrielle's tone change and you're like, she's like, I don't want fifth. I didn't actually mean it. I didn't actually mean it.
I was
Let's not go through with the bit, please, please. I will stay, please. But I think it was, which I loved the Final Five challenge.
Mhm.
I think it is such a cool competition. It was just really set up bad for someone in the minority like her,
Yeah,
um, to not even have a fighting chance. I mean, obviously she didn't have a fighting chance anyways because Meredith
had the green
bought
thumb.
the green thumb. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, I think the worst version of that challenge is 4v1. What I was really hoping for was a 3v2, where basically the two people can choose which of the three would be the most immune of the other two. And I guess that's
right,
still the case here because ultimately it comes down to the auction at the final five. So I really liked being able to block specific players from entering the greenhouse. So basically you can pick your shot. So like if I went Ross out, I'm going to give him all my points so that he's not a flower. And then if I have enough coins to buy Uproot, I have the deciding vote. He's not immune, and I'm taking him out. So functionally, that's what I wanted out of the challenge because I care less about earning immunity. I care more about enabling people to target the people
right.
they want.
Make a move.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I do think these things through, even though like when I consider whether or not a challenge would be unfair, there's I consider whether or
Taylor,
not it's an interesting strategic reason to have it that way.
Taylor, don't worry because, like you said earlier, I know you have an Excel spreadsheet where you plan out every scenario to see how it can go.
Yes. So I promise I'm trying my best for it to end in interesting outcomes, which I think most of the time it does.
No, yeah, totally. Like you said, I think it's just the cast. Um, which is because like Meredith said a comment in one of the podcasts. I don't know if it was it was the one with Brody, and she was like, "Is being the most cutthroat and villainous and lying really the best gameplay?" Do I think it's the most entertaining? Yes, but I agree with her that if you can talk out every scenario and be on the same page and play an honest game, totally respectable.
Mhm,
Which I think a lot of the Greenhouse cast have done
mhm,
to where I would just love some more like vindictive, villainous, plainly lying for no reason just to
mhm.
do it for TV. You know what I mean? To where if
Yeah,
like someone like Claire got a little further, Claire would have done that in a heartbeat.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that the game does enable it, and probably should have enabled it here, like with Brody continuing, and flipping the Brody narrative, or
Mhm.
Shakira and Thomas continuing and getting Jessica out there. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see more. I'm excited to see people better weaponizing the game mechanics in front of them. Like whenever you are talking about the Jenga game, like the hack of purposely losing is the reason I have it in there. You
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. And
But
I don't
yeah,
even think that was who said that? Who brought up that point?
I don't
Was it
remember.
Brady?
Or that was
No.
Shane's episode. I think Shane brought it up.
Shane. It was Shane saying Brody should have just knocked over the Jenga tower, and then yeah,
Mhm.
Brady would have been forced to nominate someone else. Which yeah, I totally agree with.
But anyway,
Okay,
but
but
yeah, for anyone who plays my games in the future, if something's weird, it's probably because I'm probably trying to do something funny with it like that. Um, so anyway,
outthink what Taylor has presented you.
yes,
Overthink what Taylor has presented you.
yes, you are also playing the game against me and or with me. I'm trying to give you tools to like do something fun.
For sure. I agree.
But anyway,
Let's get into our illustrious final four of the Greenhouse All Stars. Not only do we have a winner, not only do we have a two-time first boot, not only do we have a flytrap victim, and not only do we have
Meredith.
I was on a roll, but Meredith, yes. This is our final four of the Greenhouse All Stars. Before we get into each game player's gameplay, was this the final four you were expecting?
Honestly, I had no idea what to expect. Like just looking at the cast, I was like, every single one of these people I think should get 13th place. You know, but they cannot all. So that was just the exciting part of doing this from the first in the first place. Um, Holly and I did a draft and I chose Abrielle first. Abrielle was my winner pick going in. So I expected Abrielle to be in the final four. I was just wrong. Um, of the others, Ross was the one I was least confident in of the season four guys. So I was wrong there. Um, I want to say I had a good feeling about Brandon going in. Um, so Brandon doesn't surprise me, though I don't think I would have expected it to be this him to be this successful. I probably would have expected like a
Mhm.
top six like casualty boot,
Totally agree.
Like Shane style boot. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and Meredith, I kind of went in with the same expectation that Meredith had of Meredith, of just very strong challenge player, the type of person that they could just like toss up and boot quick, like whenever things get too shaky. You know, like I could have seen her going in like a Dylan type spot or in an Ava type spot of like, oh, double house, like we don't have the easy out, so let's just get rid of Meredith now. Um,
Yeah, but even a testament to Meredith's game, there was a lot of times where they could have taken that shot and they just
oh,
didn't,
absolutely, and like it is
which is
absolutely
crazy.
no, it's crazy. Meredith played incredibly this entire season. Um, But yeah, I want to know what you thought as a viewer just coming in, because like that has been my most favorite part about just watching it back and like seeing people's comments, is because like obviously me and the players know what happened. Like it's only during the day of that we like can just
Mhm.
react and like kind of predict and see what's happening. Like I want to know more about just like what you expected from the season, what you expected from of a Final Four, and like I guess the same question you just asked me.
So I think with Brandon, I was kind of expecting him to play how he played this season because it's kind of similar to season one. Just in the fact that he was very social and he just kind of was able to float in a good way with where the power went.
Yeah.
Because that's how he got to the end in season one and how he ultimately won because he didn't really piss anyone off. Um, would I expect Jessica here? No, from a strategic standpoint, but from, like, a perceptive standpoint, I feel like, obviously, Jessica is kind of the player that did not do as much as the other 3 to where it makes sense to drag her along, kind of like why I said these people should have voted her out when she was
Yeah.
against Thomas and Shakira. Um, Ross, I didn't know much about because again, I have not watched season 4.
Oh yeah, I forget
Do
that.
do not kill me,
Okay,
but,
you're wrong. It's fine.
um
The show's wrong. Look, I expect nobody to watch.
well, don't do that much because obviously I binge watched the first 2 seasons and I loved it so much that I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, "Screw it, I'm coming down to play."
Oh yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
but I think that was my thing before we get back into that. My thing was is, like, seasons 1, I can't remember if I watched 2 live or not, or if it was, like, already almost over, but I love to binge Greenhouse. I think that
Yeah.
is what I've realized to where when season 4 happened, obviously after my season, I was like it was airing live to where I wanted to binge it before I, got an opinion on it. I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
But very impressed by Ross's gameplay. Meredith would never have expected for Meredith to have the trajectory that she did
Mhm.
just because of her run in the first season. I didn't know if she's going to be able to establish those connections. Matthew loves Meredith. Not that I don't, but Matthew watched Meredith's Big Brother season with Abrielle,
Mhm.
and so he loves Meredith because she like dominated that game. I guess would you say?
It's yes, she did. I think Meredith is probably the contestant that has had the most positive reaction across all of their seasons. I mean, like pretty much she played the same way as she did in Greenhouse One, where she was like kind of at the bottom. Like she was one of 2 couples in the game for Big Brother 19,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
rest of the couples, except for her, got all sniped pre-jury. But then
Mm,
like kind of was part of a big flip at the top 9, and then won a few clutch challenges and like more or less won her way to the end. So
okay.
she's had very underdog type trajectory. Just in the past, which I think is why she's so rootable. And it's cool to see that rootability continue for such a dominant social performance.
Yeah, and I think Meredith was completely correct when that what I brought up earlier and the fact that like I think it is a lot more I just think it's harder to play an honest game. I
Mhm.
feel like it's easier to have to like to be able to lie to everyone and have everyone believe you and then make the cuts that you need to and piss those people off. But telling people to their face like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna vote you out. You don't make sense in my game plan." Yeah, I can never do that. I don't have the balls to do that.
No, I
Like,
don't have the balls to do it either.
yeah, I will lie to your face and then I will cut you when I can. To where Meredith just executes it honestly pretty flawlessly. And you see that in the end when she is really the only one that has all these avenues that she can
Mhm.
take, and it is just up to her which one she wants to take.
Absolutely.
Um, do I think this is the best one? I'm not too sure. I feel like really the only person she's competing against is Ross, in my opinion, if I'm looking on the outside. But also, I'm like a viewer, so I've seen every conversation. I'm not like a player who's only seen the conversations I've been a part of.
Right.
Um, but you also see that with Meredith going into the jury phase to where she's like, Ross and Patrick keep getting all the credit for everything. I want people to put some more respect on my name. Which is kind of like a catch-22 because I'm like, girl, don't put a target on yourself, but also get that credit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So just extremely proud of Meredith this season for sure, especially after season 1 when she was basically alienated right away. And the only reason why she got as far as she did was because of, again, some like clutch competition wins.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like I didn't talk too much about Ross. Ross has an exceptional social game. I know some people have said that he lacks the strategy sometimes, but I think what Ross is good at, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is he allows his allies to take initiative on the
Mhm.
strategy.
Absolutely.
Um, because I think he realizes it and he notices it, but he lets the others take it when he doesn't really need to because he's set himself up socially. And I think that's why I said Ross got a bit lazy towards the end game because he was so set up well that he just kind of let it play out because he knew he was going to make it this far anyways.
Yeah. I think that which yeah, I pretty much said my piece about Meredith. Like it's cool to see her in a non-underdog position. Yeah, since I think we're just like talking about our current feelings of the Final Four. Ross, I think, plays this game like a manager. You know, like he is really good at gathering the group together. He's good at getting everyone to trust him and like confide in him specifically. And he's good at recognizing which of his people has the best plan and then getting everyone on the same page with that plan. I think it's how he ran season 4. I think it's how he ran this one. It does surprise me that strategy is specifically like where people critique Ross because I actually think he's very strong strategically. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
very strong socially. Clearly, he had people tripping all over themselves this whole time. Um, and physically, he kills the challenges. Like I, I don't know why he wasn't targeted.
No,
Now,
I totally agree, especially with the green thumb. Let's talk about that.
crazy. I think that just so many people forget the green thumb even exists. I think that it's been bought maybe 5 times total, and all the times I've run the greenhouse game.
Right.
I think people just forget it exists. I think that it's just too expensive to even consider. Like if you're going to spend 4 seeds, just use it on the uproot right now to help somebody.
Right. Yeah.
I think people are afraid of the target, and it's just so aggressive. I think and honestly, I don't even know when the exact right time to buy it is. I think the final 6 purchase right here by Meredith is as flawless as it gets. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
but outside of that, I really don't know. I think the way to buy I think the way they bought it here of just like when there's a bunch of chaos happening and no one can really react or outbid you, I think is a good way to go. But I would also use it almost immediately. You know, like I wouldn't have the balls to hang on to it that long. But
Me
I
either.
don't know. I think it's just I think it's just out of reach strategically for a bunch of people, including myself. I've considered taking it out of the game, though I think it's fun. Like I don't think I will, but I think it's just one extra factor that just everyone forgets about. I think, including Ross, um, is what I think happens.
I mean, yeah, there was that one round that was it the round that he went up with Meredith and Patrick
Hmm.
that he didn't use it? And
Hmm.
I'm like, why is Ross not using this right now?
I don't know.
I guess he just felt that comfortable, or I don't know. Maybe he'll explain why. But yeah, like I think I agree. I feel like if I had the green thumb, I would in my own head be like going overdrive and being like, everyone knows I have the green thumb. Everyone's gonna target me for it. Like I can't keep holding on to this, or I need to pass it to someone. And Ross just held on to it all season long.
Yeah, extremely impressive. Um, I don't know. I don't know. And
I'm gonna okay, no,
I'm
continue.
sorry. I was gonna more go in a different direction with the Ross discussion, so you could go first.
Mine's completely a tangent, so we'll do
Okay.
mine after.
Um, But yeah, I do agree that Ross is more autopilot on this last day.
Mhm.
I think that he very much set himself up for that autopilot. Uh,
Mhm.
and basically had people throwing their games away for him this entire time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't really know how to fix that if I'm Ross. You know, like I think that once that I am set up this way, I'm not going to change too much. I might do more to like make sure that I might try to eliminate like a Brandon earlier, even though I think Brandon is an ally for us, or maybe I am better equipped to say Abrielle, which I guess they were trying to do at 7 to get Abrielle out at 7, just to anticipate Meredith's potential other avenues and try to force her to stay loyal to me, even though she actually
Right.
is. So
Mhm.
I think he accomplished like earning Meredith's trust in the way that he was so just upfront and actually collaborative. Um, but I think it's also easy to see that as a weakness and giving in to Meredith. But I think that's also one of Ross's strengths. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to fix it. I don't know if he needs to fix it. Um, but yeah, it's just an interesting critique to me.
Okay. Before I get into my last question about this Final Four, I feel like we've talked a lot about Meredith and Ross because I feel like they're the front runners,
Mhm.
since they've been controlling the entire season. Sorry, I'm reading Brody's comment. But, um, I want you to talk about Jessica a little more.
I would love to talk about Jessica more. I think that I would cast Jessica again on this season in a heartbeat. I um I think that Jessica's another person like Lily who does not think about these games until she is on the property the day of. I don't even know how many, if any, episodes she's watched of the show. I think, and that is iconic to me. I think she is there to have fun, be funny, and just enjoy it. And I think that, and you'll see some discussion about this in the finale. So I guess this is a bit of a teaser. Is Jessica kind of talks about how difficult going home first twice was. Um, and I think it just added a lot of perspective to me about how she approached this season. Like genuinely, I think she just
Mhm.
wanted to enjoy the experience. And I think that, like, I mean, you see it in the episode, she does not know how the final four works, you know? Like she
Mhm.
just doesn't. Like she just does not know the rules, which is fine. You're not obligated to. I mean, I would learn them. But I think she's only experienced one round. I don't know how much she expected to go far. I think she just wanted to come in, try to make it as far as she could. And I think that
Mhm.
it's genuine just game knowledge and not being like just in the mindset of people who do this 1 million times, that I think put her at a massive strategic disadvantage here. Most
Mhm.
specifically, not knowing how the final four worked. And I think even though people were warning her that she was number four, I genuinely think that she's thinking, well, maybe I'll win the challenge, you know? And I am being for real. I am being for real.
I know, I know, I
So,
know. I'm not laughing at her, but it's like,
yeah, no, but it's like that
yeah,
is like
the
I figured
circumstances
that.
making.
And she is very openly and visibly that kind of player, of just
Mhm.
like making jokes, like doing stuff just because it's spicy and saying it's because it's spicy, like, and just like making a decision because she has to, and is just a very unpredictable player. And I think she's openly that way. And I don't think anybody should have been surprised by her being a surprising player. I think that's the reason to take her out at the Shakira spot. Um, and I think everybody who expected her to just be another loyal sheep like the people on all these other seasons, um, I think is just incorrect. I think she would not have been on this All Star season if that's how I thought she was you know it's because I think that she can act I think that she does actually make these strategic decisions for herself, even though she's thinking about the game differently from everyone just because she's not like so immersed in it. I think she genuinely thinks about it when it's time to play. which is a fun angle, but it's a
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's a less successful angle, and I think that's what frustrates people.
yeah, viewers. I think that is the thing. I think Jessica has a strategy. Is it the most optimal for the actual reality of the game? No. But seeing how her brain worked in those like 2 or 3 one-on-ones we got from her during the season, it was like, okay, I understand where Jessica's coming from in
Yes.
this moment. To actually get some perspective on what she's doing, because she kind of just gives I'm gonna go where the power goes for a while, and you don't really know why she's, like, having certain conversations just
Mhm.
because she wasn't voicing it to the audience by herself,
And and yeah, no, I think that she recognizes the default is to just go with the flow.
right,
Which I think is a solid one round at a time strategy. I think that she did, and she voiced that she felt like she wasn't actively included in a group. And the main one that included her was Ross. I think she wanted that Brady, Shane, Abrielle, Jessica quadrant to work. But I think whenever she brought it up to Brady, Brady didn't really take her seriously. And
which he
I
probably
think
should have.
when he probably should have. And
Mm,
well, I don't
I
I
kinda
don't
take that
know.
back because of Shane,
Because of Shane,
but
but,
yeah,
I think she's another person who was, like, really asking someone for more asking everyone for more options, and no one was giving her any actual legitimate options. I mean, be
right.
honest. What were people actually offering her? I mean, Abrielle and Lily kept saying, "You're at the bottom, you're at the bottom," but they did not say, "You know what would be great? A final 3 of Lily, Jessica, and Abrielle." I think that would have worked. I don't know why no one pitched it. So I think that that's what I think. I just think that people are expecting a level of omniscience from Jessica. Um, when if you look at the literal transcripts of what people are saying, uh, I want people to tell me actually what Jessica's options were. You
Or
know,
presented to her, yeah.
or that were presented to her, and
But
I
that could
want,
also be the same thing. That could also be an argument to say, where was Jessica taking the initiative to create her own options?
which
But
again,
like
and
you
then I
said,
will counter again. Who would have taken her seriously?
right.
It's the Brady
No, I
connection.
agree with that though.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Is
the
that what you're
Brady
calling
connection.
it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, I think that Jessica is a stronger player than people give her credit for. Though I do understand the frustration, and I do think that she just does not know the rules,
Mhm.
and she admits it on camera. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I would cast her again. I would.
Okay. Final question about the Final Four. How many times did Jessica go to Sonic this season?
Okay, good question. Okay, so people talk about Jessica's absence for so much of night one. There is a leading theory that she was at Sonic. I don't know how often she went. I know she had people on crew go, like, and she like had like the app or something, and like could get a good deal, and like everybody Venmoed her. So
Uh-huh.
I know that she was like the manager of. She was the project manager of all the Sonic runs. Um, but yeah, so I don't know how often she physically went, but I will say she had like 4 slushies that weekend.
Okay, final thing before we go into the recap of this episode after 2 hours. But I
Yes.
love it. I
No,
love deep diving into
look, I
everyone's
have nothing
game.
else going on tonight, so
Neither do I. But America, it's time for your voice to be heard. Should have added a slide for this. Are you hashtag Team Brandon? Hashtag Team Jessica? Hashtag Team Meredith? Or hashtag Team Ross? Let your voice be heard.
I do feel like I didn't talk enough about what I feel about Brandon right now.
I
So
was gonna say that. I felt like we did, but like, yeah, let's deep dive into Brandon, and then I have one more question for you.
yeah. So I want to talk about Brandon. I think Brandon was the only one this season who successfully played the middle.
For
Um,
sure.
like just period. I think he was untouchable. I think that he was
Yep.
smart in targeting specific people on the other side to be his advocates. And I think that he was insightful enough to realize that it was Meredith and Ross who were the ones who would be his best advocates. I think it's like the Sandra Trader strategy of getting traitor angels. I think that they were his angels of the people in the actual power group. And I think that Brandon did what no one else in the season uh, successfully did. I think everyone was trying to be Meredith and Ross's active strategic number three, and I think Brandon was the one who took that spot more than anyone else. I think that Patrick had that spot, but I think Brandon spearheaded eliminating him and replacing him. I think Shane tried to get that spot and had it but lost it. I think Brady tried to get that spot but couldn't get it. I think and everyone else who was not actively targeting Meredith and Ross because they felt so close to them didn't actually achieve a level of closeness to them that was meaningful. I think Brandon was the only one who pulled that off, and that's impressive. I think that it shows. I think that it's just an active agency and an active gameplay that we didn't really see from him his first time, and I think that we did see an absolute upgrade from Brandon this season.
Yeah, like I said before, I think Brandon played the same way in a sense, but I think even though he wasn't driving the strategic narrative, I think he made strategic moves that made sense for him in the moment.
Mhm.
And I think that when as strong as Patrick, Meredith, and Ross were, Brandon swooped in at the perfect time to where that relationship was weakened,
Mhm.
and he took that spot. And yeah, I just think Brandon pivoting to his relationship with Meredith to then get in with Ross when he did was probably very like around the Christian boot, I would say. Was definitely where he put himself in the position he's in right now.
Absolutely, especially after being so gung ho for the Thomas alliance that failed
Mhm.
immediately. Um, no, it's just extremely impressive. Extremely impressive.
Yeah. One last question before we get into the recap. Not one last question of the podcast, but who would you vote for as a juror in this moment? Without, I know you know the winner. I know how it all shakes down. Up to this point in the
Um,
season, who would you have voted for?
I don't want to answer that right now, but
Oh!
I will say that after the final round, everyone on production sent me a text message of who they would vote for to win of the final three, and I sent a text message. So I actually do have an answer of in the moment who I would vote for to win. So
Okay.
I can reveal
So
that later or at the reunion or something, but I do have an answer.
after the finale tomorrow, we'll reveal it on camera for the audience. But after the finale tomorrow, you can send it to me first,
Yes, I will.
and you can send me everyone else's answers on production also.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Um, okay. So this is our final four as we go into finale tomorrow night. We'll give a reminder at the end, but again, tomorrow is the finale of the Greenhouse All Stars. Make sure you tune in at the link below at 8/7 Central to see who becomes the winner of the Greenhouse All Stars. So let's go into the recap of this episode. Let me pull up my notes. Let's talk about so obviously this greenhouse, the first greenhouse at the final six, is a tower building tournament style face off, which I think is pretty self explanatory. But I
Mhm.
think the one thing that we need to note is Brandon's iconic win with one block. With one block. How gagged were you?
I was gagged. It was just so funny and perfect. Like, uh, it speaks for itself. I just so funny.
Yeah, no, I loved it because the timer in the editing went off before Brandon's even fell, to where it was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it has to stand for 5 seconds after the timer.
gotcha. Okay. So I was like
And
kind of
this is a
confused
whole
about that.
controversy. This is a whole controversy because I think Brody's fell during All Stars after the timer, but he swears to God it
Mm.
was 5 seconds. And so like
Mm.
now we're really strict about it and like count out loud, like whatever.
Gotcha.
But
Um, but yeah, that was pretty iconic. That
it was
one
very
singular block won Brandon the competition. Not that it mattered anyways, because Ross immediately uses his green thumb on Abrielle. How did you feel about this?
I mean, it's the perfect play at this point. It's 4-2. The two are cornered. Ross is very much in the position that he wants to uphold the current hierarchy. So at least get safety for himself. And if anybody tries to flip on him now, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can't flip on him directly.
Okay. So that gives us our greenhouse. We have first place Brandon, second place Ross, and third place Meredith. Something I want to talk about is the actual discussion before the flower power ceremony. And that is the fact that Meredith kind of speaks her mind. She
Mhm.
says, I have been on the block, I have taken the hit for us multiple times. I want a power now in this moment. And the boys are kind of like, sorry, girl. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's probably the best pitch she could make, but ultimately, like, they are absolutely correct to take the flowers. I think
Oh,
that,
for sure.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so close quarters. Take the flowers for immunity at this point. Period.
Especially with the fact that, like, we all compete in Final Five, so I'm taking my immunity for the round
Yeah.
because even with, like, everyone kind of caught on to the fact that Abrielle was lying about her seeds with the whole Lily conundrum the round
Mhm.
previously. So but there was still, I guess, a tiny chance that she really did have these 7 seeds that she was professing, to where, "No, I want the safety."
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's everything I have to say. I also I wouldn't be I wouldn't be upset if I was Meredith at them, but that is probably the pitch I would try.
No, yeah, I mean, I would like, I would understand as Meredith, but I would be mad if I was the one that went on the block that many times for our alliance,
Mhm.
and now no one wants to sacrifice themselves, but
I might go as far as say, well, look, could y'all just give me your seeds now, and then like I'll happily take the seeds, and then like because so just for my own peace of mind.
right. Let me just have all the seeds in the game, thank you.
Yes.
Which is like, Matthew always talks about that strategy on this podcast. He's like, "I will take any seed that is offered to me," because there's a lot of times where, like, "I'll give you a seed if you do this," and they're like, "No, it's okay, like, I was already gonna do this anyways." "Nope, give me the seed and do that, thank you.
I
I'm
know.
collecting my currency."
I know. I'm surprised we've never really seen what Holly and I call mugging. Um, in the online game, often like whenever someone had the fly trap or something, they would be like, "Give me your seeds, or you're going home." So I'm excited. So I'm just interested to see that forceful taking.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
we need
I
more of
think
that
that
energy in the live game.
yeah, it's because it's hilarious. Well, because when we
Mhm.
play it online, it's typically anonymous, so it's like someone playing as Poof from the Fairly Odd Parents doing
Oh my gosh,
this.
like Alias? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Or like I think the another person who did it was playing as Carly from iCarly. Like, and it's just
LOL.
like that person like saying, "Give me your seeds right now." Uh, but anyway, it tanks that person socially every time, but it's funny
Mhm.
from an audience perspective.
Yeah. I think, these rounds were pretty straightforward, like, Lily was already set up as a target. Um, we get the nominations. It was Lily and Abrielle, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
Lily and Abrielle get set up, which I there was, like, so much talk and confusion between these 3 about, like, how the uproot would be used and all that, and I was, like, kinda confused about it because I was like, "If you guys keep Jessica off the block and she already feels good with you, like, there shouldn't be any question about who goes up."
yeah, exactly. This is the exact reason to get rid of them and not Jessica here because you know that Jessica's not going to cooperate with them because she hasn't at all yet. I think
Right.
that obviously if you're against two people, just put both of them out on the block so that they can't both win immunity the same way they just did.
Exactly.
I think that this is another way to show the downside of spending all your seeds. That's why Meredith was correct to say that she didn't want to actually win the uproot last week.
For sure.
But and look, here's my in-game auction strategy for anyone who wants to write this down.
Oh, let me pull up my notebook, please.
What you do is you buy a seat count and just make sure you run the price up to where the other side ends up with less than half of what you have. That way, numerically, you can win 2 more auctions. Start doing that around top 9, and you can pretty much secure another few rounds for you and your alliance. Though also that comes at the cost of sacrificing one of your members, like Patrick. So it'll be tough to get an entire group to actually agree to that. But if you're thinking optimally for your group, that is what I think you should do. Personally.
Okay. I'm stashing that away in my notes. But I agree. I think we talked about it. I think we talked about it last podcast, the fact that as much as Abrielle was making this move for Lily to save an ally, at the same time, Abrielle was screwing herself over going into the end game.
Yeah, agreed. I think that it was really the Ross and Meredith side of things that could have afforded to lose all their seeds because they had the green thumb and because they've just done so much better in the challenges and could reliably win their way to the end. I just think the sides were flipped in what they should have wanted to do. I think that the Lily side should have sacrificed Lily and burned the seeds of the Meredith side. But I also think the Meredith, Ross, and Patrick of it all, I think Patrick was right for them to feel comfortable because they had the green thumb and could have definitely kept sending them home.
Yeah. But one thing I will say that I enjoyed about this season is that I feel like there was just a lot more seeds up for grabs, which I really enjoyed because it was hard for people to keep track of. Of course, Patrick knew where every seed was, but it was hard to keep track of everyone who had seeds and where they were getting them. And even though people were spending a lot of seeds, like even after the fly trap, right, per se, those seeds still went up a lot after that, which I enjoyed, instead of just getting seeds from the greenhouse competition.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fun. I want to try to think of new like fun hunts to add. I think that I was afraid to put in too many seeds before whenever the fly trap was at a fixed price. But now I think for like the first half of the game, it's too scary expensive, even though it is actually achievable. Not to mention like the social specter of like being the one to actually buy it.
Right.
So anyway, I'm less scared about throwing in a bunch of seeds nowadays until someone buys it round 1 again.
I just feel like it makes it more juicy in the end game because if people lose track, then it's easier to hide behind how many seeds you have and then even like plan for something like a final 2.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
I was gonna say, which who knows? Maybe we'll see it this season.
Maybe we'll see it tomorrow.
Actually, I was spoiled, but I won't say anything. Never mind. I'll say it off camera.
Okay.
See you.
And I lost track what I was gonna say. But anyway, yeah. It's that like the game really can play itself and does have like I think more or less mathematically what should happen a lot of the time. But so much of it is just the playing chicken, and I'm excited to reach that point too. I think that the show can grow, or the contestants can grow more like analytically and just mathematically on like figuring out exactly what they can do and accomplish and be more like Patrick and take notes. But I also think that once we get there, the next advancement would be to kind of go back to where we are right now and to do more like just bluffing and intimidating to try to get people to act incorrectly. I think that's
Right.
where it's the most fun. But anyway.
Okay. So Lily and Abrielle get nominated. Obviously, Lily and Abrielle don't have the seeds to save themselves.
Obviously.
Meredith has the most seeds in the game, and correct me if I'm wrong, she still collects seeds from people to bid on this green thumb.
Correct.
Which is crazy to me, because if I am Ross and Brandon and Meredith tells me that Patrick just gave me a bunch of his seeds after he left, girl, you can buy it yourself. You don't need my seed.
And I agree with that. But I think also Meredith should counter, like, I'm doing this to help make sure that we stomp out the last remaining person, so everyone in the alliance
Right.
contribute. And
Mhm.
because honestly, that's kind of what you should have done in 3 whenever you bought the uproot for yourself and bankrupted yourself right before the
Yeah.
end. But anyway,
Well, that
uh,
was just my own paranoia of being on the block
yeah,
at that
no,
point, and
and I
then
get it, and I get
thinking
it.
someone would make a move.
But yeah, but that's what the conversation should have been.
Right. For sure.
It just wasn't.
I just thought I was being like everyone's savior, and I was like, I'll use all my seeds to save all of us. When
Yeah.
should have used more. But yeah, no, I agree which obviously she implemented successfully. Like she still got to hold on to a chunk of her seeds going into the end game, especially when there's not a lot of seeds in the game anymore after that big uproot battle. To where Meredith is still sitting pretty. But the question remains, will Meredith trust someone else with her seeds, or will she place the seeds on someone else? We'll find out tomorrow night at 8/7 Central.
We'll find out tomorrow night. And also, just while we're talking about Final Four, like mechanics and strategy, like I want to hear your thoughts on like the final 2 strategy. Do you think it's something like ideal to even try for? Like, is it more just a
I
flash?
mean, if I'm talking from my experience, I think clearly out of our Final Four in season 3, Zach is the easiest one to beat.
Yes.
Which is why I kind of made that pitch to him. Thinking that me and Zach had this really strong relationship from the start, which obviously I was kind of off base on. But yeah, totally. If you can set up a final 2 to where you're set up you're set up in a position that's easier for you to win, I think you should implement that strategy. Plus, I just wanted to do it for the legacy of being the first final 2 in the entire series.
Absolutely. No, and it's
Like, I
crazy.
wanted the TV, I wanted the win, I wanted all of it, you know what I mean? I was
It's
trying to
crazy
get too
because,
much out of
yeah,
it.
because on y'all's season, I think both you and Thomas wanted to do a final 2. And the seeds were there to do it also.
For sure.
Season 3
Which
should have
I'm
been
gonna ask you a question,
okay.
because I did fall down a season 3 rabbit hole the other night, I will admit.
Okay.
Do you think Thomas took the initiative to do that because he heard of my deal with Zach?
To do the final 2 deal with
Because I
Shakira?
feel like Thomas never talked about the final 2 until he heard that I made that deal with Zach.
Potentially, though I think it's another thing, like, don't really think to bring it up until this the final 4. Like, you, like, because you were thinking ahead of the game. Like, I think you brought up final 2 around top 6 even. And I don't think Thomas brings it up until 4.
Yeah, he
I
doesn't.
don't know or remember. So I think it's a little bit of that, but I think also I think he would have wanted to do it just like after being refreshed on how the Final Four works.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think you triggered it. I don't think you triggered it. Though I think you were just another motivation for Thomas's petty.
For sure. Um, that was so funny watching back, by the way. But yeah, I would love to see a final 2 just for the lore of it all.
Me too. Because I just want to show like the strategic possibilities of it.
No,
The
yeah,
Final
which
Four is
I
my favorite
do.
part, by the way. It is
What?
the Final Four round is my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, because there's so many like options that can happen, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it depends who you trust. I guess the one thing I do like about my season is the fact that that was the first time there was like a three-way tie.
Mhm. Ever.
To where that like yeah, to where that like solidified a final three instead of someone making the decision who the final three was. Um, but yeah, I would love to see a final two. Okay. So Meredith gets the green thumb. Obviously, Abrielle and Lily don't bid on the uproot. And I think it's pretty straightforward. They've been talking about getting Lily out for so long. I feel like Brandon's hands are kind of tied at this point. Brandon has tried to save Lily
Mhm.
time after time after time. And as we said earlier, Abrielle kind of says, save me for fifth for the bit. And Lily is banished. How do you feel about that?
I yeah, I kind of spoiled a lot of my thoughts on this, but I think that Abrielle was the right target here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Lily should have gotten fifth.
Yeah, I agree. Because even if you're Ross and Meredith, and specifically Ross, I guess, who was super close with Jessica, you can even just paint that perception even more that like Brandon's been trying to save Lily all this time. Like we should probably go after Lily now, just to further
Yeah.
have Jessica feel comfortable with you. So then
Yeah.
we go into the final five, or do you want to say something?
No, I have no other thoughts.
Okay. I was gonna say, so we go into the final five greenhouse challenge, which is a trivia on the season, which I did try to compete in. Did not do that well, I will say.
Yeah.
But
But also it's been like
um,
2 weeks.
yeah. But I do like the idea of like you have to bet on yourself in a way,
Mhm.
for how confident you are in the answer you're giving before you can give out those points. Um,
Yeah, I love it. My only tweak I would do to this is that I would have incorrect answers be the points scored against the person. Um,
mm,
so that is how I would change it and how I will change it when I do that challenge again. But
okay.
otherwise, I love it.
I feel like that's a good rule change. So obviously everyone gangs up on Abrielle,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad. But at the same time, you see that they throw points towards Jessica to make sure Jessica's not there with them. Um, so obviously those three are in the greenhouse. But then Abrielle tries to talk to Jessica like, girl, you're on the bottom. Like, I feel like people have been trying to tell you this for rounds. If that didn't make it so much more apparent, now it should.
Yeah.
I feel like you talked about Jessica kind of not understanding this already, but why do you think Jessica didn't really bite?
I think she discovered after the fact that she should have been throwing Brandon under the bus to try to get in the greenhouse herself. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't know and couldn't explain to you why she didn't feel the need to like solidify a three this whole time, though. I guess it's more of what I was talking about earlier. Like, I think that she did want that, just no one was actually taking her up on that, and this was her best offer. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know, especially because at this point she knows the final four. So
Right.
I think she's just like, well, this is the where I am. So
So, at this point, talking about scenarios, um, technically, Jessica and Abrielle could pool together. They still don't have enough to outbid Meredith, but I feel like this late in the game, what especially how Meredith was acting during the Patrick round,
Mhm.
I don't know if Meredith would necessarily try to outbid them. If they did this, do you think she would have?
If I'm playing as Jessica, so I am entering the Greenhouse All Stars, and I am Jessica at this round. I think that's what I maybe try to do is like, hey, I fell into these seeds. Don't ask where they came from. I just like didn't have and keep cut track because they were under my Sonic cup. But anyway, I would really like to buy Upper for myself. I'll vote out Abrielle, but like it would just make me feel more comfortable. And I would tell Abrielle that I'm doing this. And then, so like, don't waste your seeds. I want you to have all the seeds. Like, I don't want any of my allies to burn it. Like, it upsets me whenever my allies burn their seeds. But like, I want to burn these for myself to just prove myself to y'all and do this. Pull myself off.
Are you like making a connection to what I did?
I guess that's kind of. I guess. But, yes, but yes, act like I'm motivated in the same way you were at 3. Pull myself off and like nobody's thrown off because Jessica's done everything she has said so far. Though I probably get pushback from Brandon, probably, and they probably just outbid me and it's over. But that's probably the only thing that works for them at this point is like for Jessica to kind of bluff her way off the block, vote out Brandon, and then it's Abrielle and Jessica with Meredith and Ross at 4. Is I think probably like one of the only options they have at this point.
And that still won't even put them in the best position, but like at least you're there and you have
Yeah.
a higher chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, a scenario I don't know why they didn't take advantage of. I feel like it's obviously pretty straightforward that Abrielle is the target here. Unless you want to talk about any specific conversations that were had.
Not really. It's just a bunch of like setting up the future. I think, and yeah, I already talked about how I think Jessica should have been the actual target here.
Yeah. So of course, Abrielle leaves us as 5th place once again. The Roach herself, self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed.
I don't mean that as shady because I love Abrielle. But we have our final 4, which we kind of already dissected. How do you feel?
I'm thrilled. I mean, if you just look at it on paper, it is Ross who was at the bottom of the game night 1 and somehow like ran shit till the end. Meredith, who is the most popular person like for the viewers like across all of my seasons. Brandon, the season 1 winner, like continuing to prove himself. And Jessica, the 2-time first boot, now in the finale of Allstars. I mean, if you're
It's pretty
just
iconic.
You're looking on paper, like as a producer, it's easy to feel like that's a win.
I mean, you've got storylines out the ass.
Yeah, I mean, what? So I don't know. As a producer, you can't touch me.
I definitely think hashtag Team Meredith would be winning the Twitter poll right now.
Yeah, probably.
It would be a tight race between her and Ross, although there would be some Brandon truthers, and there would be like the people being like, "I love Jessica."
They're being too hard on her.
Yeah, for sure. Are you excited for the finale?
I am. Yeah, at this point,
I just want to say really quick. What should the audience expect from the finale as well?
I think that you should not count anyone out. I think that the reason I did the mega cuts was because after the finale, all of the jurors were like, I want to watch every second of this final round again. I want to show other people this final round to show them what a good argument looks like. So just what you could, so that was the impetus for me going like, oh, I know I'm going to cut this down to death, Tina. But I do want to have all of the footage as an option, which just kind of led to the mega cuts. So I think what you can expect is an all-star finale of everyone fighting for the win that they've been 3 days running at. And I think it's just a really strong final round. So just expect that.
I think something to take note of in this situation is that the production of the greenhouse really listens to their talent, whereas sometimes in other shows,
Oh.
they tend to disregard the talent, and the greenhouse production makes sure that their talents' voices are heard.
No, that actually, thank you so much for saying that. Like, genuinely, my MO for like just doing this is that I'm the one who cares about this the most, you know?
Mhm,
So I want to
mhm,
make it as easy and as enjoyable for every single other person. Um,
mhm.
so I don't know. I'm just glad to hear you say that because that is my goal.
Of course. I think we all know how much you love this and how much effort and work you put into it.
Yeah, it's honestly
And
fun.
not even just the show, like you said, you run scenarios all the time and do all that, just even planning the season, so
Casting
it's
is
just
so hard. Casting's the hardest part. But anyway,
I'm sure you are getting so many applications as the seasons go by, more and more.
no, it's true. It's true. I do. I really do.
Um, so I guess I have 3 questions left for you.
Okay. Right,
I
right.
guess number 1, going off what we said before, what do you look for in casting a greenhouse player for all of the future people that want to play the greenhouse?
Yeah. Good question. I like for someone who's knowledgeable because this is a very difficult game. So I want to put it in the hands of people who like can work it well. So I think some kind of just like development or showing that you can handle just the intricacies of this game because I think
Mhm.
I think it's the most fun when everybody knows all the tools at their hands because I think the
For
game is
sure.
so easy to manipulate and so easy for anyone to flip. So I want flippers in there. I want plot pushers. So I don't know. I need to
Wait,
meet. Oh,
1 second.
oh, oh, oh.
Sorry, okay, continue.
I want. I don't know. I think I want to start doing interviews and stuff too. So I think I'm just looking for people who I think will jive with the community. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're all cool girls. I think that we all really lean into like right now we are competing in a backyard for no money. So like I want people who take it seriously, but I also want people who kind of get that it's a joke. Like
Mhm,
um so I'm looking for that too. So like just I think a sense of humor is very important. Where
mhm.
I will take a funny player over a game bot most of the time. Um
Right,
and yeah, I think those are the main things. I don't know.
okay. This is a question I have been waiting to ask you.
Okay.
What to you, and I'm sure you're gonna say I can't just pick one, what to you is the most iconic quote in the greenhouse history?
Okay.
And I have an answer too.
I have an answer.
Do you?
It is from season 2, episode 3. It is
Mhm.
Jessica's like confessional where she's talking about her strategy and I have dissected what she means, but it does not make sense.
Okay.
She says, I've kind of been trying to pay attention to everybody's actions and intentions because sometimes people get lucky. But if they're intentionally and succeeding, you got to watch out for those smart cookies. And I'm the cookie monster. Is exactly what she says. So I kind of
Mhm,
like it's not fully there, but like I've pieced it together just from working through the footage of what she meant. Is she was talking
mhm,
about what people were doing in the challenge. So one was like a shuffleboard, one was like a dice roll, one was like a tower build. So she was like, some people are willing to depend on themselves and intentionally do something and trust themselves, while some people are just depending on luck. They don't trust themselves. So she was just trying to read like who would be good allies out of that, but it
mhm.
just the way that she expressed it just did not make sense out of context. So I did her a little dirty. I did her a little dirty, but yeah, that is what I quote the most. Period.
Okay.
What
My
would you?
answer, I have to bring it home to season 3, of course.
Of course.
But I think my favorite quote from season 3 was I think we can all um I think we can all say that Bryn targeting Shane was the wrong move.
I think we can say that.
But Bryn trying to trying to tell Shane he's safe and then saying, "Well, you're gonna be on jury, so" in the same sentence, in the same breath, basically saying,
Crazy.
like, "You're good, but you're gonna be on jury, so it's okay." Um, and then obviously, like, Shane hears that and knows, like, he's fucked. But I love that, and I have to give Bryn her airtime because I love her.
Yeah. And actually,
Uh
if we're gonna do each season, I think we'll do season 1 is Claire. Either help me or I'm out. Um, season 4, I think is I really like Kelby's what did they promise you? That's really
I haven't
good.
seen season 4, so I don't know, but
And then season
I
5
trust you.
is probably I need to get in this All-Stars gig. I think
Mhm.
or
Um
or get that bank vote from Claire and don't play it. This is All-Stars. Play the game.
Mhm.
Honestly, Thomas had a million of them, but anyway.
No, yeah, Thomas is really the memeable queen. Do you agree with me with season 3, or do you have a different one?
For season 3, that one's a good one. I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't think this counts as canon because it was in the exit interview, but Ali does say, I mean, we just got backstabbed to hell, which was pretty good.
With
Uh,
Jack?
yeah, with Jack. So maybe somewhere around there. Or Rogue with Shane going, yeah, you're on my radar.
Oh my god, yes. Yes, I remember that. Well, like, wasn't Rogue trying to say, like, "I'm gonna keep you safe," but obviously the way that Rogue
Yes.
said it, Shane was like, "You're targeting me?"
Yes.
I do remember that, yeah, okay.
Are truly all of Nick's lines. Like, I really like this group.
Poor Nick. Okay, final question before we wrap it up. It's been a
Okay.
long podcast, but I've
No,
loved
long
it.
podcast. Yeah, I loved it. Shout out
Um,
for doing this.
I don't know if you can/want to answer this yet, but you said earlier in the podcast, which I've had this question planned, but you did bring it up earlier. You said you have a top 10 of the greenhouse. Are you willing to expose the top 10 currently?
I don't have it on me, so I can't confidently say it. Like I can't rattle it off. And also I
Okay.
don't want to say it in case anyone reads into it too much about the finale. Uh,
Okay.
but I'll reveal it later. Though
Okay.
actually, I say that I will get 100,000 texts if I
You
post it.
can send it to me. You can send it to me
I
privately.
can trust you. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
but anyway,
I won't take offense if I'm not in your top 10. It's okay.
you're in there.
Am I?
Yeah, you're in there.
Oh my god, period. Okay.
Cool.
Taylor, thank you so much for joining me. I love this game you have created
Thank you.
as much as I lovingly critique it sometimes, but mostly it's based on the cast more so than what you do. Um, and I am so glad that me and Matthew decided to do this podcast this season.
Yeah, no, thank y'all so much for doing this. I can't tell you how much I looked forward to each and every episode and just like listening and seeing like what I was trying to do in the edit if it came across or like if I was planting those seeds that I wanted to or it's
Mhm.
just I don't know, it's cool to see people care about what you made. So just
For
thank you.
sure.
Very sweet.
And I feel like me and Matthew became more of a nasty bitch every week as the weeks went on.
I love it. No,
Um,
that's the way I am in the editing booth. Like I just get so pissed. Though I hate to talk bad about the players, so you'll never hear me do it.
uh-huh. Um, Thank you for joining me for almost 3 hours.
I know that was crazy of us.
I know. Um, And here I thought we were only going to stick to an hour, but I was
I know,
having
me
fun.
too.
So,
Yeah.
everyone, make sure. Well, everyone say thank you to Taylor Luke for creating this game. And everyone, make sure to tune in to the greenhouse tomorrow at the link below at 8 Central, where we will crown the 5th winner of the greenhouse and the winner of the Greenhouse All-Stars. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and for those that stuck with us the entire time, kisses, and we will see you soon for the finale recap. But that's not all. We may see you even after that. And my co-host, Miss Matthew Papa, will be here as well.
Yes.
So thank you for tuning in for a special episode, and we will see you guys soon. Mwah.
Oh wait, I